The heck? All right, never mind. What's good, people, man? This is Red Dirt Dialogues, and I'm here today with Chad. Chad is my Fed handler. He's the one that got me doing podcasts. He's the one that put the foot behind my back and kicked me and said, "Hey, man, just get out there and do it."
Why, why's it gotta be like that? You
Hey,
make me sound like I'm fucking. Oh my god!
hey,
This is not 1861 or some shit. Like, come on now,
hey,
God,
man, it's just
dog.
like how men and we sometimes we need to kick in the we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
kick in. You know how when I'm like Jonah, and you know how he was hiding in the boat, and then those guys had to throw him off the boat. You were the guys that
Yeah,
had to throw me off the boat, and
yeah.
I
There you go.
appreciate that.
All right, so how was it inside the whale? How did it go? You do all
I
right?
screamed a little. Well, I wouldn't call it screaming. It was a high pitched, manly groan. It was like like, but but I
Calm down, man. I do not know this man. Oh
yeah,
shoot. I will
but
say this
hey,
though. You
yeah,
I was telling Cassius Cam, bullying works because
yeah.
after you had him on, before you had me on, after you asked me all these questions and everything, wouldn't have me on. Okay, all right, I see how it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but now here we are. No, I'm just messing with you. I know you had to do your thing. You had to get kind of get things started and everything. And
Mhm.
I'm just glad to be a part of this, have a chance to get a chance to chop it up with you again because we had a good time when you came on our show. So I'm
Hey,
looking forward to this.
I had a good time on the show. It was just like at first, yeah, I probably should have. I ain't gonna lie, I probably should have gotten you in sooner.
It's
Pause.
not fucking
But
with you. It's all good. Don't worry about it,
but
man.
now I was like, I was if I people was hitting me up asking me to be on a while back, and I was like, "Hey, what you doing? What you doing?" So it was
Hmm.
basically in the order I seen the messages in my inbox. That's what
Yeah.
I went to first, and then in the middle of that, what's his name? He just hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, I want to be on." And I was like, "Well, I'm busy this day. I'm off this day, and I'm busy this day." He was like,
Yeah.
"Well, let me get in there." And I was like, "Well, shoot, let's
Yeah.
do it."
What's funny is so like he hit us up in the Men of Order chat and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna be on Duke Lucas's show, and he said something about how y'all were going to talk about white people activities. I was like,
Yeah.
hold the hell up. Like, first of all, like this man came to me and was like, hey, what do I do? What do I need equipment wise? And what do I
Yeah.
need to use to set up my stream and all this stuff? Like, first of all, he asked me all these questions to help him out. I help him out. Then we have this idea where we're going to do this bracket challenge, white people
Yeah.
activities versus black people activities. And I was like, then he stole my idea, and I was going to talk to you about it. Another white man, like this is bullshit. I don't. This is the worst start to White History Month ever. I don't know what the hell's going on. And so then that's when Cam came back and he's like, "Man, we didn't even talk about that stuff. We
Yeah,
talked about all
that's
this
what
other stuff."
yeah, we talked about.
Oh shoot!
And
But
so far, his episode is the longest one I've recorded so far.
dang.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
it's
I'm not
three
trying to
hours.
break that record.
Nah, I mean it don't matter, but yeah, it was 3 hours plus. It like I tell you, just starting off. I know the artists is listening, think we're rambling, but hey, I was like, it's usually like I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna fill in the time. It'll be about 20 minutes in it, and then I'm just like, oh man, am I gonna at least put
what
an
am I gonna
hour
do
on this?
now? Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but then next thing you know, you just get caught up in the conversation, and then 1 hour,
Mm-hmm.
maybe two
Mm-hmm.
hours. I've done some 1 hour, but yeah, they it just is what it is. If I got the person for an hour, we'll do an hour. If they don't, I'll just you know ask some questions until I run out of questions.
There you go.
But let's really
Let's get into
get
it.
into
Yeah.
the episode. So, Chad, can you give them a short brief? Well, now you need, man, just keep talking. It don't even got to be brief. Just tell them who you are.
All right. All right, I am Chad.
Mhm.
Most of y'all probably know me if you've seen me on the timeline as Hotep Nebuchadnezzar. Um, I started doing stuff with. I did a lot of stuff with like libertarianism and like even like the official Libertarian Party before I like kind of crossed paths with folks from Hotep Nation. And then I came across. I guess it was probably like just before, but like it was very close to the timing of like the Starbucks stunt at that Hotep Jesus did.
Mhm.
But I was already kind of crossing paths with a lot of people who were either in that circle or adjacent to it
Mhm.
already, and I think that's how I came across that particular video. And not long after that, like I think summer of 2018, Unc and HJ started Hotep's Been Told You, and by like the the winter of that year, I was hitting them up. I was like, "Yo, y'all need to," because for me, I was looking at it like this is the kind of stuff that people need to see, because there are so many people in my circle, conservative white people, but like
Yeah.
freedom loving conservative white people, who were all too eager to share Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum and all these other black voices that were conservative, but they were also like, it was weird. It's like they're like running cover for racism. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy. It's like, look, I'm not saying this stuff about black people. These
Yeah.
black people are saying this stuff about black people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here, look at this. And now
Mhm.
it's like it was like I didn't say it, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I was just like, man, this shit is weird. I don't like this. And so I was like, no, y'all need to listen to these guys, because
Mhm.
these guys are actually conservative too. These guys
Yeah.
actually like a lot of the same beliefs that normal everyday working people,
Yeah.
regardless of skin color or anything else, that we all are very much the same. Like we all deal with the same bullshit day in,
Mhm.
day out, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, y'all need to see that like these folks are in line with those ideals, but they also are like, y'all got to get with the program that like this shit that's happening to black people is
Yeah.
not cool and is not okay, and the having these other people run cover for like some racist dog whistling bullshit is
Mhm.
not okay either, and it's not productive to solving so many of the problems that you complain about every day. If you're going to complain about this shit every day, like that's just been happening to black people for like 200 years. Fuck you
Mhm.
talking about, that kind of thing. And then it all came full circle in 2020, when now they start locking you down. They're going and
Yeah.
arresting your grandma for like not wearing a mask. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, like I remember it wasn't that long ago. You thought it was cool that they ran down Ahmaud Arbery. Like,
Mhm.
so pick a struggle. Which one is
Yeah.
it? You got to pick. Is it these authoritarians are, overreaching their power, and they're like drunk on it,
Yeah.
or maybe you should just shut up about your grandma getting tackled by the police because she's not
Yeah.
wearing a mask. But you can't
Exactly.
have it both ways. It can't be submit and comply for some people, and hell no, we won't go for some other people, and don't tread on me. Like, like don't
Yeah.
tread on me, tread on him. He's black. That kind of shit. It's like no, 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 it can't be like that. So
Yeah.
so I told them, I was like, look, y'all, like it would be really cool if I could share like just these certain segments of the show, because they don't, because I the time that this came up, it was right around the time that, I don't know if you remember this, but like Daniel Caesar did like a live on like Instagram or something like that, like basically caping for Yes Jules, because she had worn like a shirt that said "N words ain't shit" or something
Nah,
like that.
I missed that.
Yeah. So, and he was like, I don't understand why people, and what he was getting at is like, I don't say why people are so hard on white people or whatever, but he basically said like he threw his cape down for her, and
Mhm.
they came after him.
Yeah.
And that was one of the segments that was on the show, and it's just like, man, most white people don't even know who these two people are.
Yeah.
So like, to share the whole episode would have been a bit much, right?
Yeah.
So like, but if I could just send them this segment right here where y'all are talking about this particular issue, that would be really cool. So I was like, hey, what if we chopped it up into clips, and then you get people a taste of like, oh, I like the way these guys think. I like, I see where they're going. Because that's kind of
Mhm.
how a lot of people, if you look at it, there's a lot of people who came to that that show and the whole Hotep Nation movement. You see them like at HotepCon and stuff like that, who they came in as like, they got these little bite-sized pieces, and then maybe they were not turned off, but like it can be a little bit much for
Yeah.
like your average white dude coming into, Hotepistan and like looking around and like, holy
Yeah.
shit, like what the fuck's going on in here,
Yeah.
But then once you get to know the people and you get to understand what's going on and where they are, you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. And
Yeah.
then you've kind of given that little gateway drug of these little short clips. So I started clipping the show up for them in January of 2019, and it kind of took off from there. We started doing some stuff together, and Marcus and I started doing the show in 2020. And I don't know, it's just like it's like we're this big family, somewhat dysfunctional family where
Yeah.
we all find a way to like, you don't come for our family kind of thing,
Yeah.
but at the same time we all have our own different ways of being part of that family. We're not like it's not a monolith,
Yeah.
it's a lot of different people with a lot of different um origin stories, I guess, so to speak, that they came to Hotep Nation that way. And so one of the things that was born out of that was Men of Order. You see like down underneath my name there. We started that Hotep Jesus, Aunt Bailey, and Wasted Talent. We started that a couple of years ago, and it's taken off now. And now we have our, I don't have the sleep supplement yet, but we got our flow, our your mind right kind of supplement, and then we have the Apex supplement as well for testosterone support. And we're just trying to, with Men of Order, very similar to what Hotep Nation is just trying to be a place where people can come to get the tools that they need to succeed in the way that they need to succeed in their own particular state in life, wherever that is, whether it's with their job or finding a new job, starting a business, getting in the gym more, getting in shape because they've let themselves go a little bit. Because we know that what you've seen over the last 100 or so years as society, especially in the West, has started to crumble, lies directly at the foot of men. Men have failed. Men have abdicated their responsibilities. And we're here to help men recognize that they need to pick that responsibility back up and put it on their shoulders. And we're here to help them strengthen their shoulders so that they can carry that weight.
You mean to tell me you're not a fan of men whining and moaning on Twitter about their issues?
Hell no. Well, I mean, look, I think so. It's funny that you say that because Strong Dad and I were talking about that today. That I think there's a balance, between this fake machismo Andrew Tate stuff where it's like he talks about even like the struggles that he had with his own father. And acts like it didn't have any impact on him. And I just fucked more bitches. Like, okay, all right. I bet that worked. Like it's just there's a balance between going so far to overcompensate for pain that you pretend like it doesn't exist. And then like recognizing that as a man, most of the time in this world, like nobody really gives a shit about your pain. So you just got to like find a way to suck it up and power through it and turn that pain into progress. Right. But we need to be able to reach out to each other and be like, hey man, you good? You good? Because they're like, we are human beings and we're not invulnerable. And so to be able to recognize like when somebody needs to just take a breath, that it's that it's okay to do that, and that it's okay as other men to like be supportive of each other and not just be like, oh, what are you, a bitch? What are you? You hurt? You know what I mean? Like it's a fine line. It's a balance because you can't, because like both of my sons play sports. I played sports growing up, and the difference between like when you have that dog in you and like you get hurt, you don't. It's like you cannot take me out. I was playing rugby in college, and I caught an elbow across my face, broke my nose, bled out of my mouth like a stuck pig, and everything. I didn't come to for like a couple of minutes. When I did though, I was ready to go kick the dude's ass who hit me. They had to hold me back. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
wanted to go out there, and they're like, "No, man, we already subbed for you." And it's like soccer.
Yeah.
Like once you get subbed out, you can't go back in. And so I
Oh
was like,
shoot.
"This is bullshit." Like I wanted to go back out there.
Yeah.
There's a difference between like having like the fight in you to keep going no matter how much it hurts,
Yeah.
and then like when your leg's broken, you can't run, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you need to rest and let that shit heal so
Yeah.
that then you can come back stronger and go run. But
Hmm.
to try to pretend like you can run around on a fucking broke leg, like no, you're not helping anybody at that point.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
recognizing that difference between being hurt and being like injured
Yeah.
and needing the healing that you need to like get back into the game, it's those are two very, I think that sometimes that overly machismo side of things is what has gotten people like in real trouble,
Yeah.
where they've tried to do too much when they couldn't handle it. um and then on the other
Like.
side is you've seen the pussification of
Hmm.
America and the entire West,
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, I have a hangnail, I can't play, coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's and so you gotta finding that balance and giving men the tools to have the discernment to know the difference between those two,
Yeah.
unfortunately has become very difficult because of what's happened over the last 100 or so years, with culture in general.
All right. I want to ask you on a similar topic.
Mm-hmm.
Some men say that you should never confide in a woman. Like, how you feeling? What do you think about it?
Mm.
What do you follow in that argument? I see it a lot on the internet.
Ooh, I mean, it depends. I'll be honest. Like I I made this mistake. The I was dating a girl in college, and I think I probably opened up to her too much,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
She
was,
wasn't feeling you.
she wasn't feeling me anymore after that. But
Yeah.
I guess I kind of learned my lesson, and the woman who is now my wife. And I guess maybe things happen for a reason, right? Thank God,
Yeah.
I'm with the woman I'm with now, because 27 years now. Earlier this month, we've been married,
Congratulations.
and 32 that we've been together.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't think it took a long time for me to open up to her, but it was like I I think that experience that I had before kind of got me wise to, okay, you got to be careful, and you got to make sure you know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Like it's not a good way. You don't build trust that way by like just spilling your guts to random
Hmm.
strangers, and then
Yeah.
like, well, now I told you everything, so you can trust me. Like, no, that's that again. It's a balance, right?
Hmm.
I don't think it's I don't think there's anything wrong with if you feel like this person is your like ride or die,
Yeah.
that you can be like, hey, look, um, I'm just letting you know I'm good. But I will say this, as a dad and a husband, um, there's a whole lot of stuff that I just take care of that I don't tell
Yeah.
anybody about,
Yeah.
because it doesn't do any good to let them know like what I'm stressing out about how we're going to take care of our future, and how this is going to get paid for, and how that's going to get taken care of, and all those kinds of things.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't do any good to stress them out about that stuff. So instead, what I do is I act like nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
I go take care of it, and then there's nothing wrong. And I was right to not tell them, because there was nothing wrong to begin with, because I got it taken care of. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like there's nothing to report until there's something to report, right? So you got to be careful with that stuff. But yeah, like if you had a shitty day, like I don't think it's off. It's crazy to be like, yeah, like I'm just not feeling it today. Like I need a minute. I need to go take a nap. If you could rub my feet, rub something else. I don't know, like
Yeah.
we might be, like it's just like it's one
Yeah.
of those days kind of thing,
Mhm.
but uh but yeah, I don't know. I think again, I think some of that is you, you have to know who you're talking about and who you're talking to,
Mhm.
because some of this stuff is the difference between spilling your guts to some random,
Yeah.
or like, you know giving a little window to your wife into like what's going on with you, so that you're not sitting out here flailing alone. and just trying to like take on the world on your shoulders.
Yeah, I had that kind of issue for much of our relationship. We've been together what, since 2009. So 15, we've been together 15 years. We'll be
Mm.
married 10 years this year.
Oh,
And
nice. Congrats.
I thanks. I used to have that issue where, like you said, I just hold it in, and then it'd be about time where I'm about to fall apart because I don't have the solution. I tried to work it out, I couldn't work it
Yeah,
out,
yeah.
and now I got to go to her, and she's probably wondering like, "Darren, why didn't you come to me sooner?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned that way. Like even recently, I big ups to my wife again. Like recently I haven't we said before the pod, I haven't been working, so I
Mm.
was like, all right, let me see if I can file unemployment, and then they were giving me the run around. Then I finally, and then I'm praying to God, and I'm just like, hey God, can you put the rent money in my hand? You know what I'm saying? Can you do
Mm-hmm.
something? Can you give me some job opportunities? And I was just like, this ain't working. So when that ain't working, I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Then finally, I had to tell my wife because I was like, I can't wait until it's almost time, to pay the bills, and then I can't, and I'll be like, oh, I ain't got it. So I
Right.
told her, and I apologized, but then she told me there was no reason to apologize. She was like, don't worry, I had already put some back because she knew I was going to leave work,
Mm.
and so she saved some of the tax money, and she haven't paid, and she's like, she's a lifesaver,
Mm.
like, and then that's another thing. Like I've never really been good with money, and then uh, not to where like I'd be in poverty,
Mm.
but it's about the saving part, or like my issue was like when you're down and sort of like down, and now it's easy to to hustle and get it and blah 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 this and that. But it's when I would get high and get stable that I would relax,
Mm.
which I can't do. And
Mm-hmm.
so then that out my like the money you stacked, it just kept going down and down and down, and then next thing you know, I done spent too much money here and there, and I don't have
Right.
anything to show for it. And but that's just something I've been confining with God too recently, with a lot lately. But also just I've been working on making sure I tell her what's what and what's going on in my mind, because it's she's probably been the one person in my life who seen me cry more than anybody, because
Mm.
I try not to show my sadness, but when you have friends die, you know
Yeah.
close loved ones die, you need
Mm-hmm.
you need somebody who you can lean on. And I got my friends, but it's certain things you can tell certain friends. But
Yeah. Yeah.
she's been the one that I can go to the most, and because I tell people my wife is my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
But I would tell guys when they ask, I'm like, when it comes to women, your woman, uh, one, like I think you alluded to it earlier. If she's not your ride or die, like I knew I could tell my wife, 'cause I know she ain't gonna know what she been with me through thick and thin. And I know what kind of character she is. Like even if she's mad, she doesn't like if we're mad at each other, we're not the type to go spill the beans to our friends
Right.
about each
Right.
other. So I know she's not that type of person. So I know I can already tell her what's on my mind, on my heart, and then like I hate to say it sounds weak, but it probably isn't. That I feel safe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so here's one distinction, I guess, right? Like you can go tell some other woman about this shit, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So I think I think a lot of this stuff, like that's why I said it's I kind of need more information with this
yeah,
question, right? Like,
yeah.
what do you mean? Don't tell a woman about
Well,
shit you're
some
going through.
guys.
You know, no, what I'm saying like
Okay.
when the people from the people who are asking this on
Oh yeah,
Twitter or wherever,
yeah, yeah.
like this isn't just some binary
Hmm.
question. Like, there's a lot more layers to this shit. Like, is this some chick you fucked Saturday night? Yeah, don't
Yeah,
you shouldn't tell her everything.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like that's not the same thing. And that's to me, that's the bigger part of the problem. We were talking about this in that our group, our Men of Order group, the
Hmm.
team. This somebody was saying something about how like, I mean, what month it is and all that, and
Hmm.
about the Hawk Tuah girl and everything. And I was like,
Yeah,
well, let's not talk about how there's some the the idea of like wanting some girl to swallow your children, not being all that different from like some of the stuff. Like it's still like it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Here I am. Let's go. Um, it's not all that different from the rainbow shit. If we're
Yeah.
being honest,
Yeah.
you're doing something that is designed for um, extending your bloodline,
Yeah.
and you are cutting off your bloodline for pleasure.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's all that different from like, I mean, now getting past the fact that like, being attracted to dudes and all that, but like, let's be real, like we doing stuff just because like whatever, it doesn't matter as long as it feels good, or are we doing stuff because like there's a deep spiritual connection with another human being where you're
Mm.
willing to make children with that person and start a family and
Yeah.
create a legacy of like a family tree
Yeah.
that comes after you, because that's what
Hmm.
we're talking about, and that's the shit
Yeah.
that I think has been lost
Yeah.
in this last couple of generations. Is like we have a cookbook that my mom's side of the family put together that is like all these like old family recipes, but the first half of the cookbook is a genealogy with like
Oh, that's cool.
letters of
Yeah.
like there's a letter of like one of my great grandparent or great great grandparents or something like that was like adopted. They got like so like we have like the letter from his mom that her cousin, she like said like I can't take care of, that kind of thing, where like even that we have like the trace of like where my great great grandfather actually came from,
Yeah.
that even though he was adopted from another family member, but we know who his mom was. So then we can trace that back, and then we can jump back that through that bloodline and everything. But like to be able to do that versus like how many kids do we have running around right now who don't even know who their parents are,
Hmm.
or who don't know who one of their parents
Yeah.
is? You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say like circumstances happen. It's not to judge people for any predicaments they got themselves in, but the fruits of that tree are
Yeah.
that you have kids who don't completely understand their own identity because they
Hmm.
can't trace back where some of their tendencies, proclivities, their, why am I tall and dad's short? Like I
Yeah.
might not be your dad. I don't know. What I mean? Like stuff like that, where it's
Like they're dark, you're a little light.
yeah,
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's there's some stuff where um we the more we get into these activities that are just about like hedonism and not
Mm.
about like thinking 100 or 200 years from now,
Yeah.
and or thinking about eternity.
Yeah. That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
and so like even the conversations that you were talking about that you're having with God about the rent and all those things, like yeah, like all right, if you can hook me up for this month, that would be cool, because then
Yeah.
this month will be cool. But like I don't know, that sometimes some of this stuff is like surrendering our will to his will
Yeah.
and recognizing that maybe this month it's not about the rent, and there's something else that's being built within you
Yeah.
as a result of some of this struggle,
Yeah.
this cross that you're having to bear.
Yeah.
And I think we've gotten as a culture like disconnected from like the virtue that can come from enduring suffering, and then like recognizing that like maybe this is an invitation to me to change my behavior, to repent, to do something different. Maybe
Yeah.
there's something, and I'm not saying this isn't understand this is not judgment on you or anything like
Yeah.
that, but like
It's accurate on me.
this is something I have had to deal with
Yeah.
myself. And because as over the last couple of years, 2.5 or so years, I have begun to um I've begun the conversion process, and it's a long process because it's not done yet. I have not been received into my local church. I go every Sunday, but I'm still anyway, it's a long story. You'd have to be there to understand. But anyway, um, an Orthodox Christian church, and the reason that I'm there is because more so than anywhere else that I've ever been, it is like a constant. No man, like all this stuff is like the the things that are going on with you are about your own wounds that need healing,
Yeah.
your own vices and passions that you're following, that you're allowing yourself to get caught up into, that are getting you into these situations. So like the things that you think you should blame other people for, you should probably blame yourself.
Yeah.
And the only place that you can go to get the healing that you need is that hospital, that is the church.
Hmm.
And that's where the healing is going to come. And the only person who can offer that healing is Christ. And so when I when I talk about and think about this stuff, like it's difficult, it's hard, but
Hmm.
sometimes I get kicked square in the nuts, and
Yeah.
it's like, instead of getting angry at God or angry at someone else or anything like that, it's I've got to step back and do a better job of recognizing, like, no, this is like an invitation. This is a door opening to, like, okay, look at this. Look at these behaviors that you have that put you in this situation.
Hmm.
And now what can you do to clean up these behaviors so that you can actually, like, do a better job of actually receiving the grace that is being poured out for you? Because a lot of times what we do is we talk about salvation and grace and mercy and all this stuff, and then we wear a raincoat to protect
Hmm.
ourselves from it. Because
Yeah.
what we actually want is, like, no, I want God to look that way so I can keep doing this,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's not what forgiveness and mercy is. Mercy is
Yeah.
not God saying, like, do whatever you want, I don't care, I'll look over here, go do what you want, like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not what it is.
Mm.
It's like seeing the stuff that you're doing because you don't trust God,
Hmm.
and recognizing that, like, if you can let that stuff go and give that trust to him, that then that's when, like, the healing starts.
Yeah.
But the more you stay stuck in that, the more you keep yourself imprisoned by it. I don't know if I did a good job of explaining that,
No,
but
it was a
that's
great.
that's where I am for me.
Yeah.
And so the idea of not being able to talk to someone who you have devoted your life to, like your
Mm.
wife,
Yeah.
about the struggles that you're having, um is like, it's setting your marriage up for some potential disasters, I think. It's not
Yeah.
saying you have to divulge every single thing,
Yeah.
because some of those things are might actually be like, uh might be hurtful,
Mm.
unnecessarily, but like, to think that you got to just bottle all this shit up and just, like,
Yeah.
swallow it and then, like, move on and like pretend like it's not there, is, like I said, it's you're going to explode on somebody.
Yeah. And I tell you, it's hiding, especially from your spouse, hiding stuff. It's like almost as bad as lying to them. Because I remember
Hmm. Hmm.
we've had, me and my wife had discussions where like I've messed up like that, or she's messed up like that. Because you marry a person, you're supposed to be able to come to them with issues. Like I remember when I think it was when my son was born.
Mm.
Uh, she went through what they call it, postpartum, but she didn't let me know. It was just like a year or two later. We're talking about something. She mentioned how she felt like depressed after that, and I had no idea. You know what I mean? And I
Hmm.
was upset at her, and I told her like that was messed up because you were supposed to let me know. Like I want to be that shoulder that you can lean on.
Right.
So
Right.
for you to hold that from that was, I think I might have called it selfish in my head. That seems a little selfish.
Yeah.
In my
No,
logic.
and it is, and that's the thing. So often, and this is the thing where people got to really, like, check themselves, and I have to check myself, right?
Yeah.
With, am I withholding this because I'm trying to protect her,
Yeah.
or am I withholding this because I'm ashamed,
Yeah. Yeah. The same.
and it's my pride
Hmm.
that's making me withhold it, and not like, I'm I'm pretending like it's for her when it's
Yeah.
really, it's for me,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And truthfully, this is one of the things that, like, again, back to this fake machismo stuff. I think that we've gotten some stuff twisted, that we think vulnerability is like pussy shit.
Yeah.
And no, I'm telling you, like, armoring yourself all up and walking around in a fucking bubble
Mhm.
where, like, I can't let anybody touch me because I'm not vulnerable. Like,
Mhm.
okay, that's the pussy shit.
Yeah. Because you're operating on
The
fear.
right, the real shit is like walking out there naked and being like, this is it, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go through it.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean?
it,
Because I'm a man. Like walking out in the woods with nothing but a loincloth on.
mhm.
That's what vulnerability is. You are vulnerable at that point. But are you
Yeah.
strong enough to overcome that?
Yeah.
And so if you go out there and you're like weighed down with all this, you know, I don't know, fucking wrought iron armor,
Mhm.
then number one, you're not you're not making yourself vulnerable, and so your skin is getting soft underneath
Yep.
that
Yeah.
and everything else,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
also you're carrying a lot of weight
Mhm.
and it's gonna crush you underneath.
Exactly.
So
And it's gonna usually at the worst time in the
hmm
worst place in your life.
yep.
It was because that's what I learned. That I didn't learn that from my own best. I learned that from women because I used to chase uh broken women. You
Oh
know, a lot of
really?
yeah, not on purpose. It was
That's a
just
well no, but that's well, you say not on purpose. It
well,
may
I
not have
mean, it
been
might
like
be
it may not have been explicitly on purpose, but
yeah,
it's a tendency men have because
yeah,
it's an easy mark.
yeah, because it maybe sound like a predator, but yeah,
No,
it is what it
no, but it is.
was.
Like I no, I used to have a friend who he was like, I love dating girls with daddy issues. Because it was like
Yeah,
they do wild stuff
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
they're working out their daddy issues, but and
Hmm.
I'm talking about, like, he's 25, they're 25, not like
Yeah,
some kind of but it was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like they were they were they were down,
Hmm.
so he was like, yeah, cool, me too.
Yeah.
And yeah, but you I don't know. You
But yeah,
you
well,
you
I
end
was
up
gonna say what I had
you end up
learned
in a
was
bag of cats too. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like, it's like you get torn up.
Yeah, I did that when I was young, and I learned like, cause see, I had realized I was like, cause see, I saw that tough exterior, so I'm thinking, oh,
Mhm.
this girl's tough. She can be able to go through anything. Then when you start, when like you get close to them, and they start telling you stuff, I'm like, damn, this girl ain't as strong as I thought she was. She cried all the goddamn time. And then
Mhm.
like I started seeing that more. I was like, oh man, this is a
Get
habit. That's
super
just
clingy,
yeah,
super
that's
jealous, and
mm-hmm,
super possessive and all that stuff, and like psycho on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was all, and it's all
Yeah.
up front. Y'all like, man, you ain't
Yeah.
as tough. I thought you were tough. You kept playing hard to get at first. Then I got it.
Mhm.
But let me,
Mhm.
I'm talking too much.
You'll learn.
Yeah, I hope I don't learn the hard way. Oh man, because I was going. It was when you were talking earlier. I was thinking like my another one of my issues was I wanted to be. You ever heard that song? It's a gospel song. When they be like, I want to be tried by fire.
No.
Well, basically, it's talking about the furnace of affliction. A
Mhm.
lot of
Mhm.
times we want to be the person God's called us to be, but that don't come without that, being stretched and uncomfortable,
Oh
and
yeah. No, for sure.
you got to go through you got to go through the fire.
Mhm.
And my problem was, it's like I wanted to be this, but I didn't want to go through the process. So that was another part of my Jonah expedition. It's like, man, I want this, but I just kept running from it.
Mhm.
And now I'm going through it, like I'm just at the point where I'm like, I can't keep dodging this. I'm only getting older. I'm only delaying the
Yeah.
inevitable. And so whatever God's will be done, and whatever comes, it just happens. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna be nice while I'm grumbling to God, because I know because it's like, where
Yeah.
else can I turn to? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I used to have that problem where it's like I might mess up on something. I'll be like, man, I can't go to God with this. Not like He doesn't already
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
He's all knowing, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? But I'd be like,
No, but it still is. Every time I think about this stuff, I have to remind myself that all of the things that we do
yeah,
are not for God; they're for us.
Back to
Like
pride.
when we ask for forgiveness, it's not for him; it's for us.
Mm-hmm.
We need to like, look, am I good? Am I
Yeah.
okay? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I had you. I got you. Like
Yeah.
I've often described it as like grace, forgiveness, salvation, mercy, whatever you want to however you want to categorize it, but they all
Hmm.
kind of fall into the same metaphor. You ever been to one of those hotels that has adjoining rooms? Where there's like a door on one
Oh
side and
yes,
a
I
door on
know.
the other
Yeah.
side. So
Hmm.
like if we're in adjoining rooms, I got to open my door and you got to open
Yeah.
your door.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nobody can go through that doorway. If you keep
Hmm.
yours locked, I can't go through because yours is locked. And if I keep
Yeah.
mine locked, you can't come through. So we both got to open them. So like when you got a family or whatever, you both open that door and you can go back and forth and like all
Yeah.
the grandkids or whatever, the kids can, you know, play around and all that shit. Like we did that before because I got 3 kids. So like my wife and I would have one room, the kids would have another room
Smart.
when they were little, and then but we would keep the door open
Hmm.
adjoining until it's time to go to sleep and we close it, but we wouldn't lock it.
Yeah.
But if there's a stranger next door, man, I don't want that door unlocked. Like
Yeah.
you come in like end up in the bed with no, that's weird. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I I say that to say like my description is like that's kind of how like God's grace, mercy, love, and how like our salvation is it's like adjoining rooms and he's in that other room, but his door's off the hinges.
Yeah.
The only thing that ever keeps us from that connection is us
Yeah.
closing that door.
Hmm.
When we close that door because we don't trust him, we
Hmm.
don't we don't fully believe that he's looking out for us and we try to do it ourselves,
Yeah.
all those kinds of things. And so I think I'm reminded of like there's a prayer that I say every morning as part of my like morning prayer rule. Um, and I struggle with it because like there's still some of this stuff where like you pray something like this every day for a couple of years and the stuff that you thought it was trying to tell you 2 years ago and then a year ago and then 6 months ago
Mm.
is not the same stuff that it's telling you
Yeah.
now because
Yeah.
you're getting deeper. um it's like if you have like a white tile floor
Yeah.
and that white tile floor is like they just demoed that house and so it's covered in like sheetrock and dust and then somebody like a water main busted or something like that so it's like
Yeah.
there's water so it like turned into mud and it's
Hmm.
just nasty so you got to start cleaning that stuff up. Well,
Yeah.
it's not until you get to the part where you can actually see the floor that now
Mm.
you can start to tell like there's still a lot of imperfect. Now you've made a ton of progress getting all the sheetrock and dust and dirt and mud and everything off the floor. But then the cleaner and cleaner and cleaner you get that floor, the more you start to notice where there's a little imperfection here. There's
Yeah.
still a spot that you missed.
Yeah.
And so like the cleaner it works for your soul too. The more you do the work on like healing the wounds that you have
Mm.
in your soul between you and God, the more you start to see like dang, there's something there that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like they taught. I remember when we were in school, they told us about how like these like pygmy children in the Amazon and stuff,
Oh
they
yeah.
would circumcise them when they were like 9 years old,
Oh
and they
shoot.
would put hot rocks in their hands so that they couldn't, so that they would be focused on how much this burned, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't feel that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like
Man. Yeah.
you get distracted so much by some of these other bigger wounds that hurt more that
Yeah.
you don't even realize that there's this other thing that you've been it's been covered up or you've been just kind of like overlooking. And so these sins that you have or these just these wounds that you have are there. The prayer is, it goes like this. It says, "O Lord, I know not what to ask of thee. Thou alone knowest my true deeds. Thou alone knowest thou lovest me more than I myself know how to love. Help me to
Mm.
see my real needs which are concealed from me. Um, visit and help me for thy mercy's sake. Strike me and heal me. Cast me down and raise me up. I worship in silence thy holy will and thine inscrutable ways, and I offer myself as a sacrifice to thee. I put all my trust in thee. I have no other desire than to fulfill thy will. Teach me how to pray. Pray thou thyself in me. And
Yeah.
so it's like that part where it says like strike me and heal me,
Yeah.
cast me down and raise me up. Like that's the
Yeah.
part where it's like, are we really willing to be like you said, like taken through the fire, like cast
Mm.
down and then raised up? Like the
Yeah.
casting down is it's like, now, can you just raise me up without the casting down part?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
like why I got to be cast down? But it really like so often what we need more than anything is to be humiliated.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like to
Be
have
humble.
our humility like freely offered to us, where we
Mm.
can like just embrace it, because it's really hard to be humble.
Yeah.
But when something humbles you, it becomes a lot easier
Hmm.
because you don't have a choice.
Exactly.
But it's like that's a heavy cross to ask for.
Yeah. Like you
And
says,
so
die to you.
we
You
don't
got to
want
die to
to.
yourself daily.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Man, that's deep. I don't even know where we're gonna go with this conversation, man. But it's been good. It's been so good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all right. I wanted to ask you about the men of order thing. It says men of order. Like, how would you describe order? What type of man is that? What type of man is a man of order?
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like we talk about, like I think it's like the natural order, right?
Yeah.
Like what does it mean to be a man?
Yeah.
And scraping down like the I don't know, the garbage pile of chaos that has been that we've been confused by. And you think again back to like we've been subject to a whole lot of like deception and twisting. I
Mm.
mean, look at we're we call it we our group calls it Strong Dad June, right? We know what
Yeah.
other people call it
Yeah.
this month,
Hmm.
and it's ironic that the word they use is like the the root sin,
Yeah.
the sin that cast Lucifer himself into hell
Exactly.
for all eternity. It gave him his own kingdom, but it's
Hmm.
the kingdom of misery. You
Yeah.
know, shout out to Saul Alinsky for not recognizing that. He's like, you have to at least give yourself an over the shoulder shout out to Lucifer for um, getting himself his own kingdom. It's like, yeah, it's like the kingdom of misery and dread
Yeah.
for
Like
all
at what
eternity.
cost?
Yeah, right, exactly, right. Like, okay, all right, but now at least we know who you serve, Mr. Alinsky.
Yeah.
It's he's right out in the like it's like the second page of the book. It's like it's in his acknowledgments
Leaving no doubt.
for rules for radicals.
Yeah.
Like no doubt whatsoever. Yeah. Um, so there's chaos in that, right? The chaos is that we will search for let me break it down like this.
All right.
So there is the creator of the universe,
Hmm.
and the creator of the universe created that universe with an order to it in mind. But
Yeah.
within that, the reason why we were created as his creatures was not just to be robotic automatons
Yeah.
who it was for an exchange of love. We were
Yeah.
created to be loved and to love. And the only way that there can be love, that exchange of love, to love and be loved, is for complete free will to exist.
Yeah.
You cannot love me if you not loving me results in punishment or death for you.
Yeah.
Like that's not love. That's you avoiding punishment and death.
Hmm.
So and that's why even like the idea of like hell and judgment and punishment, I think we've gotten some of that stuff a little bit misconstrued, where I think that like most of where that punishment and judgment comes from is from us.
Hmm.
The fires of hell are the love of God. It's just that it burns us so intensely because we don't want it.
Yeah.
it's we don't think we're worthy of it, whatever the case may be. We've judged ourselves prematurely. We've considered ourselves unworthy of it. So where the order comes from, for me anyway, I think, there's, I don't want to speak for everyone with Men of Order, because I'm just one part of it, but it's a large group of guys who recognize that there has been a tremendous amount of disorder
Mm-hmm.
wrought over the last couple of centuries, at least over the last century, especially in America, but just in the world in general, and especially like the West and in the US. But recognizing that where the root of it is in how men have failed.
Yeah.
And so kind of goes back to that old adage of, um, tough times create strong men create good times create weak men create tough times,
Yeah.
and that cycle continues. And so what we want to be is we want to be the strong men
Yeah.
that can create the good times again,
Mm.
but recognizing that whether the good times come or not, regardless, strong men have to exist. Like we have to hold the line
Yeah.
and return things to their proper place and the order. And the way that you start that is by doing what you are supposed to do as a man,
Mm-hmm.
me doing what I'm supposed to do as a man, um, getting stronger physically, spiritually, mentally, taking care of my family, taking care of my local community, my neighborhood first,
Mm-hmm.
my neighbors and my extended family first, and then as that community can grow, as I can hold the weight to do a little bit more outside of that group. What we can't be doing is like ignoring our kids
Yeah.
and worrying about the debate between Trump and
True.
Biden,
Yeah.
because that is completely disordered and is not where we need to be. We don't need to be focusing on some stuff that in the grand scheme of things is not going to, like, Joe Biden's not taking my kid to basketball practice.
Yeah.
Joe Biden's not paying my kids tuition.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to take care of that stuff. So if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm setting up my family for disaster. And that's, if you look at the world on a whole, what we see more than anything else is we see people trying to reach across the cosmos to solve problems that could have been solved if the parents had just taken care of their kids, and if
Yeah.
the grandparents had just helped to take care of the grandkids, and if the uncles and aunts had taken care of their nieces and nephews.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, what we got Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom and whoever trying to
Yeah.
dictate to people, or George Soros, or uh, Klaus Schwab, or whoever. You know what I mean? Like, pick
Yeah.
your pick your evil villain who you want to put in your evil
Yeah.
villain movie, and they are trying to fix the shit that you broke because you weren't home and you weren't doing what
Yeah.
you were supposed to do as a man, as a dad, as a husband, as a uncle, as a brother, as
Mm-hmm.
a friend, whatever the case may be. And so that's, if that helps to explain like what Men of Order is, it's like bringing order to a chaotic world that has gone off the rails. And it starts with, teaching guys how to save their money, invest their money, teaching guys how to learn skills, teaching guys how to keep their mind right and stay focused on what's important. Um, Showing, giving guys workouts to get in the gym, get stronger,
Yeah.
and get themselves to the point where they can stay healthy longer, and they're not, worried about Medicare, Medicaid, and all this other stuff to try to take
Mm-hmm.
care of them, because they have to take a medical retirement when they're 50 because they can't go to work anymore because they're obese and out of shape and diabetic and everything else. So it's like all these things that you see that everybody else sees as problems that are just like unavoidable, whatever. Like, no, these are all things that are a direct result of the root cause that men have gone out of order. There's a
Yeah.
sign on the door, of the men's restroom, and it says out of order, and
Yeah,
we are here to restore that order.
it's interesting. We're not. I don't even know how to say what it is, but it's because I'm listening to what you just said and what we were just talking about before, and it and if you melt those two together, it's what I was going through this past month and a half.
Mm,
And that was one of the things I had to admit to God. Is like, God, I know I'm in this situation because it's my fault. Like, not even
mm,
like I wish I could blame somebody else and be like, oh, if Biden blah 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 with the economy. I was like, nah, I was like, I'm lazy. I was foolish with my money, and
mm.
I was like, I put my family in a terrible situation. That's how I truly felt. And I told my wife that, even though she said I didn't put us in, she had my back.
Mm.
But it was still like, nah, that money could have been used. If I would have handled my responsibility, that money would have been used for something, else.
6 months from
So
now, she might tell you, like, "Yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but yeah, you fucked up." You know
yeah.
what I mean? I mean, if she's anything like my wife will be like that. She'll be like, she'll be like, "Let me not say this now because it's probably not going to end well." But let me, and then like a year later or something like that, she'll be like, "Yeah, you remember that time?" You said, like, "Yeah, that was fucked up, man. That was, I can't believe you did that."
With
So,
big
but,
stuff, usually not. It's usually like smaller things.
mm,
So
something you said at a party or something
yeah,
like that, like,
yeah. It'll be something I said. But
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
weird because she'll bring up stuff. She'll be like, "You remember when you said this?" And I'm like, "Nah, I don't remember when I said that."
I didn't
And
say
then
that. What are you talking about?
yeah. And then if I'll be like, "You remember this?" She was like, "I didn't say that." I was like, "Yeah, you did." And she was like, "No, I didn't." I was like, "Oh." So when I don't remember, it's fact because you remember it. But when
Right.
I remember something you don't remember, it didn't
Listen,
really happen. I
yeah,
was like,
listen,
okay, I see how it is.
yo, yeah.
And I tell
And
you
I,
one, no, go ahead, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, go ahead. I'll remember mine.
No, because I was gonna say one of the biggest, one of the most, not obvious, one of the most frequent prayers I've been making is,
Mm,
Lord, I believe, please help my unbelief. Because it's like, Lord,
mm,
I know what you can do. Because,
yeah,
but I'm still struggling. This is still tough for me because I have a limited mind. I was like, I need you to help me believe
hmm,
in whatever way you see fit. I didn't know what it was gonna be because I was like, is he gonna have somebody drop a lottery ticket in front of me? The whole
yeah,
time I'm sitting here worrying. But he's like, he put in a thought in my wife's mind to hold on to some money
hmm,
back in the day. But this also helped me because now I'm able to become closer with him. It drew me closer
hmm,
to him,
hmm,
and I'm able to drop my pride and speak to my wife. You know what I mean? Like where
yeah.
other times I might have held on to it, but I'm like, no, I gotta confess this. I
Look,
can't.
man, that's. I know it's hard. It's look, we got to eat, right?
Yeah.
And like people want certain things and stuff, and like especially like I can live in my car eating peanut butter if I had to. My wife,
Hmm.
women get accustomed to certain standards.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like um I've been to so and so's house. We need to move. I'm like, oh, we gotta move. Like just because you went to somebody's house and it's nice, like now we
Yeah.
gotta move. Like what the hell? We just moved. Um, but but I will say this. What you just talked about with like having some of these things that in a material sense, we it's very easy for us to look at those things as our measure of success and to have a really really hard time to struggle mightily to
Mhm.
understand that sometimes the best success
Mhm.
is in being broken to the point that we find God and we
Yeah.
actually like get closer to him.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things where like as went down this path of orthodoxy, I've gotten into the habit of every day. I don't read them because I don't have like the book of the Synaxis, but I have there's an app that I have that like I can listen to an audio version of it's the lives of the saints, and it's like
Mm.
every day there's at least one. Sometimes there's like five or six. Most of the time it's like two or three, and you would be astonished because this is like every day, 365 days a year. There's like multiple, most of them martyrs.
Yeah.
So that's like 700 to 1,000 martyrs who like died,
Yeah.
who lost everything, were in prison for years, had their hands cut off, their feet cut off, their women having their breasts cut off, they're lit on fire, all this kind of stuff. And at no point did they, if in fact, like the emperors kept like ramping up the tortures because they wouldn't like, I don't know, bow to the idols of the
Yeah.
emperor or whatever it was. They wouldn't renounce Christ or anything like
Mm.
that. And I just think of all those things, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm kind of a pussy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Oh,
I'm
I
saying?
ain't saying
Because like,
mm for you. Oh,
because
for
like,
me.
I'm like, man, I was about to just be like, you know what? You suck, God. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like on some bullshit. On like, I didn't get the account that I wanted to get.
Yeah.
On so that would have given me like a little bump in income or something like that.
Yeah.
Like damn, that's like it's nasty, nasty work by the devil out here. Like
Mm-hmm.
just getting us to like cuss God out on
Yeah.
some bullshit. And you got people who like they some of them like died like 3 times. Like they killed
Yeah.
them and they were like, oh, I'm still here. You didn't kill me. And I still believe in Jesus. And they're like,
Yeah.
kill him again. And then finally they're like, okay, behead him.
Yeah.
And then that's when they're finally like, all right, then that's they actually die. And so I think sometimes it's easy for us to look at the material things as our sign. And you hear it a lot from people. Like
Yeah.
I was talking to, we had our little men's group meeting last night actually. And one of the guys actually was talking about
Yeah.
that prayer that you said,
Yeah.
I believe, help me in my unbelief. Um, Talking about, oh shit, where was I going? Damn, now I forgot. Shoot. Well, anyway, but just talking about we um how we can very easily like fall victim to that, like the materialistic look at things. Like if I have success, that means God is looking out for me.
Yeah.
And very, very often, I think it's very easy for us to be like, oh well, oh yeah, I know what it was. They were talking about an atheist was saying like, well then why did God allow the Holocaust? If God exists, why did he allow the Holocaust? And it's like that's a question that to me indicates that you don't understand who God is.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate like your fervor and your zealousness,
Mm.
your zeal, whatever, but you don't know who God is if that's actually a question that you have, because there's a lot of stuff that we that happens to us that is the result not of God's doing, but the
Mm.
result of like the demonic.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that all those souls that sometimes are lost to torture and death and war,
Yeah.
destruction, all that stuff, God's got those souls.
Yeah.
Those people are good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the all that other stuff is like it's an opportunity for the rest of us, and even the people who are perpetrating that stuff, because
Yeah.
that's one of the things that you see with these cases of these martyrs
Yeah.
is the guy beheading. There's one of these saints that like the executioner tried to chop his head off like 3 times and couldn't do it,
Yeah.
and they had to bring somebody else in to do it to finish the job, and the guy who was trying the first couple times like converted.
Yeah. It's.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, but he's still an asshole because he was trying to. Well, okay, yeah, but so was the thief on the cross,
Mm-hmm.
and he's still. What does Christ tell him on the cross?
He's like, today will you be with
Verily,
me in
verily, I
paradise?
say unto you,
Mm.
today you will be in my kingdom.
Yeah.
Like it's, that's like, that's the real shit. Like we're tested very often,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we are like we prove ourselves to be extremely weak when
Yeah.
it comes to that.
That's how I felt when I was struggling with porn. Cause I'm like
With what?
porn. Because
Oh.
I'm like, man, and I'm praying, I'm like, God, I know I'm it's like here I am again. Here I am. I done watched
Mm,
it, I done did this, and
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry again. And I know I've said it a million times, but I'm sorry. And then like cause I got a book about martyrs too, and I'm like, bro, these folks facing real persecution. They were
Mm-hmm.
struggling with real. I'm like, darn, they struggling with real issues, and then I'm over here whining about not looking at girls on the internet. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is, it just felt so stupid. But like you alluded to earlier, the only thing I think a lot of it was me trying to get over it on my own willpower for so long,
Yeah.
and then so I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna do this,
Mm-hmm.
and then so I'm trying on my own willpower to to get over it. But then once I was just like, hey, I need you to take, like, I had to surrender myself and like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
need you to take this from me.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm not even gonna lie, like the temptation is always there, especially like on Twitter where these freaking
Yeah.
bots and stuff.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes you might scroll on Instagram or whatever, and
Well,
see something.
especially if Jabari is sending anything to your timeline, like you might just collide with some shit that you're like, why am I like I didn't want to know about the hot to a girl, but here we are. Like I done seen like
Yeah,
1,500 different little
yeah,
memes and edits of that shit and everything. And so it's but I will say this, you were talking about how you still, the temptations are still there. Yeah, like I think the more people come to grips with the fact that the Ephesians 6:12 is, and this is, I can't take credit for this. He probably wouldn't want to take credit for it either, but to tempt his pride. But like Vin Armani, aka Cyprian, he's Cyprian on Twitter or whatever. But he talks about, he says, when you realize that Ephesians 6:12 is a what did he say? How does he say it? An accurate description of objective reality. That's when you start to like understand the world, the way that the world works.
shoot, let me pull it. I don't know how to pull it up on the screen. Do you got it? You got to pull it
Oh
up.
yeah.
Or do
So
you remember?
if you go down to where it says present down there at the bottom, or can you do? I
I
could
mean,
pull it up if you
you,
you want
yeah,
me
you
to do
pull
it.
it up. Yeah, because
I'll do it.
I'm only on one screen
I'll
right
pull
now.
it up. But I'll tell you what it is. It's
Yeah,
for we do not struggle with flesh and blood, but with powers and principalities. That's hang on. Let me.
that's one of the one. Like I'm bad with the numbers. People will say I'm like I don't know the numbers,
I
but
mean,
like when I
really,
hear the verse,
the whole
I,
chapter of Ephesians 6 is great. I'll just do the New International Version. I don't know what people's. Let's do it. Let's go full chapter here. Hang
you're
on.
gonna have some KJV only people.
You want me to do that? You want me to King James version it?
It's up to
I
you.
mean,
No, I don't care.
I don't know. Like whatever. Yeah, because I just thought about that. Like that's let's
And
see.
like I
Where's the
love the King James, but I read the ESV. I'm like that's the
ESV?
one
All right, ESV. It is. We got you.
All right.
Hold up now. Um, let's see if it'll let me do the whole chapter too, though.
All right.
Read more. Can I read more of this chapter, or is it going to be read more of something else that somebody's wanting to say? Yeah, here we go. All right. Bet. Share screen. Da-da. All right. All right. Can you see this?
Yeah.
All right. So it starts up here. Where's Ephesians 6? Wait, that's 5. Oh, okay. Where? What in the world? Oh, that's a footnote number. Oh, that's an S. I thought that was a 5. Okay. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, it says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Bond servants obey. Okay, so this is one of the ones where people probably get mad because it's like they act like there weren't like all kind of different people who were like servants and slaves
Yeah.
for all kind of different people throughout history. But anyway, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart. And really, like this gets to like obedience as a way of like surrendering to the will of God is another
Mhm.
thing that like even if you feel like it's unjust, like it sometimes there's if you're not being told to sin, obedience is actually like a virtue that like
Yeah.
it gets you closer anyway, with a sincere heart as you would Christ, not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ. Where's the okay? This is the part where it's really, I guess it's really here. All right. So finally, be strong in the Lord and the strength of his might. Put on the whole armor of God that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. And this is 12. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, stand firm. To stand firm, stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and as shoes for your feet, having put on the readiness given by the gospel of peace. In all circumstances, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming darts of the evil one. So anyway, that's the long and short of it. But it's when so 6:12, the idea that like even if you're attacking me, you're not my enemy. It's the
Yeah.
demon that is like whispering in your ear,
Mhm.
telling you to do that to me.
Yeah.
That's the and that then you realize. So I wrote a whole article on Men of Order actually about this, about like fighting the culture war, how to win the culture war, and
Yeah.
it's basically if you want to win the culture war, become a saint. How do you become a saint? Well, first, how do you win the culture war? First, you have to. There's three criteria. Number one, you have to recognize that you're at war. Like you can't win a war if you are just like, no, everything's cool, man. Like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go like get my daiquiri and like chill at the bar and try to hook up with some honeys. Like no, that's
Mhm.
we're we are not recognizing that we're at war. Second thing is recognizing who the enemy is and who the enemy is not. You can't win a war if you're shooting your allies and like buddying up with the enemy, right? You're
Yeah.
going to lose. Third, what weapons defeat that enemy? So when you recognize like, okay, yes, we're at war. What kind of war? Well, the war is like a spiritual war.
Mhm.
Who are the spirits that are actually at war with us? It's demons. It's
Yeah.
Satan and his servants. Um, well, how do you fight that? What are the weapons that defeat demons and Satan? Prayer, fasting, almsgiving,
Mhm.
um, taking uh, taking time to like show compassion and love people and find it's we don't do any good if we're running around on the battlefield and there's like people with their limbs missing and we're like uh chopping off another limb just to make it evened out or anything like that, like
Yeah.
and we don't do ourselves any good by going and other victims, other patients in the hospital, who might be poisoning other patients. That's not our enemies. It's it's the people who are it's the entities that are telling them to do that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I know it may not be comforting to a lot of people to think like, well, no, I'm just going to shoot that guy in the face.
Yeah.
Um, well, okay, but you probably did what that demon wanted you to do then,
Mhm. You wanted him
you
dead.
know?
Now you're a
So
murderer.
yeah, now you're
And you,
exactly. That's what, because people were talking about this with the whole, um, the grooming and
yeah.
pedophilia stuff. Like, it's horrible. It's abhorrent. It's
Mhm.
despicable. It's disgusting, and it's tragic for those
Mhm.
children. But it's tragic also for those adults who are doing that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, there's pain that they have endured somewhere along the way
Yeah.
that broke them to the point that that's something they have a proclivity towards.
Mhm.
Um, there was a whole movement, probably still is. There's probably the memes probably still circulate of people wanting to throw these people in wood chippers
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
wanting to murder them and all this other kind of stuff. Like that's death penalty for chemical castration and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, Um, so I've had this discussion with some people, and they're like, "Really, you really believe that?" I'm like, well, if the idea is that the solution to degeneracy is that we murder all the degenerates, then all we will be left with is murderers,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all in one way or another degenerates on some
Yeah.
level. It's just about where do you draw the line. And that,
Mm-hmm.
again, back to the thing I was talking about with the people, the hawk to a girl, and like people, saying like, well, it's at least it's not the gay shit. Like, yeah, well, really? I mean, it's
It's the
not.
pipeline. It goes
Yeah,
same.
it's the same pipeline.
You start at
Like,
Hooters and you end up at Drag Queen Story Hour.
there you go. You see, you feel me. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. And it's like, and people think like it's some good thing, like bring your son to the Hooters and have him like he's a red-blooded American man. Rah, rah. Like, okay, yeah.
now he lacks
And
sexual discipline.
he's yeah, now exactly, now he lacks sexual discipline. Now he's probably going to cheat on his wife, and
Hmm.
or he's going to only he's going to make his wife get a boob job when she's
Yeah,
32 because she's had a couple of kids or whatever.
yeah,
It's we again, it's disorder, and bringing things back into order is the only way that you can do that is by doing the things that fulfill the will of the creator,
yeah,
because he is the one who created the order.
yeah,
And it's us and our fall as we follow the prideful, first deviant, so to speak.
yeah, yeah,
It's that has brought us into disorder.
yeah.
And I see too much of the people who, even sometimes, who you would say are on our side, right?
Hmm.
Who are all too willing to follow him to that prideful hell,
Yeah.
if it means that they get to dunk on somebody else who's following him to their own prideful hell.
Hmm. Yep.
And it's just something we got to be careful for, because I have this. It's funny. I have this little. You can see that image.
The
This is
ladders.
the ladder of divine ascent. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's I don't know if you can see it, but it's like, so there's people falling off of both sides. There's people
Hmm.
falling off on the left, the permissive side.
Hmm.
There's people falling off on the right, the judgmental, wrathful side. And we have to be careful, because the demons don't care which side we fall off on, as long as we fall off.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity to reach union with God, and some of us are tempted through lust and greed and everything else to fall off onto the left hand side, into the permissive. Like, it's okay that you do this, just indulge yourself, you deserve this.
Hmm.
And then the temptation on the other side of that is like, look at those hedonists who are like doing all this evil stuff, they're the bad guys, I'm good. Like the Pharisee,
Pharisee. Yeah.
the Pharisee and the publican, he looks at the tax collector and he says, thank God I'm not like this tax collector.
Hmm.
And the tax collector, what does the tax collector say?
It said, "Lord, be
Lord Jesus
merciful."
Christ, have mercy on me, a sinner.
Hmm.
You
wouldn't
know,
even
so
wouldn't even look up to heaven, head down, shame.
that's right. That's right. And
Yeah.
so it's like, which one of these is worthy?
Hmm.
And so that's where, when we make ourselves gods,
Hmm.
um, we were created to be gods,
Hmm.
but when we make ourselves our own gods and
Yeah.
not following the will of the creator, we have completely missed the mark, and we pay the toll. We suffer the consequences for that. And so I know this is not probably where we designed this conversation to
Hey.
go from the jump, but this is where we ended up.
Yeah.
And I am like, I know you. So it's so crazy, because like, you have this in your, I don't know if you still have it in your bio, but you did.
Chief of sinners.
Chief of sinners. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's like, um, that's real shit right there. That talks to me, because I if you hadn't done it, I was going to do that,
Oh
but
yeah.
I feel dirty, like stealing it from you. Um, but
So you don't
maybe
mean
I
you
can
were
put
gonna steal it and say you
chief
discovered
of sinners.
it?
No, but but no, but it's real. Like if we don't see ourselves that way,
Yeah.
I feel like, and this just again, this is just for me. I'm not telling this to anybody else. Um, Something else that Trey and I were talking about today, Strong Dad. We were talking about how, like, some of the times when I tweet, I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
I'm preaching and teaching, but what I'm
Yeah.
really doing is I'm talking to me because I
Exactly.
need this. I need this motivation. But like, really, like, if I'm not seeing myself, especially after there was something we were saying earlier where like we both started to talk and
Yeah.
then you said, no, you go ahead. And I was like, no, you go ahead. Well, this is what I
Yeah.
was going to say. Um, like yesterday morning, it was some stupid petty shit, but like my wife's vehicle registration renewal thing came in the mail or whatever. And it had been like, it's probably been like 3 or 4 weeks and she hadn't, completed it or whatever.
Mhm.
And my mother-in-law's came in like the other day and they were having all kind of trouble with it. She apparently typed in the wrong URL, and it was like a scam URL where like
Yeah.
she had to type. And my wife like caught it. She's like, "Wait, don't do anything. Hang on, something's wrong."
Yeah.
Um, and sure enough, it was like not the right site or whatever. Anyway, long
Okay.
story short, there's like a QR code that comes on the thing in the mail. I'm like, if you just scan
Mhm.
this, you will not go wrong. Like they're not
Yeah.
going to put the scam QR code on your thing from the DMV or whatever.
Yeah.
So we do that. We go through. It's already got like all I had to do was put in like the number for her renewal ID or whatever, and it like
Mhm.
spit out the VIN and the make and the model of the car. Like all that shit was already there. They're like, no, this is the one. The other thing was like making you put all that shit in. That they were trying to steal your information.
Yeah.
Um, so my wife and I were talking about hers, and I was like, look, if you just scan this QR code, boom, see how easy that was? She's like, well, yeah, but I did it this other way, and like that worked too. And I'm like, well, obviously not, because y'all almost got like scammed.
Yeah.
And anyway, we got into like this big argument where I'm like, this is like objectively true that like
Yeah.
that was not. This is objectively the correct way, and this other way, yeah, you could probably type in if you type in the URL correctly, but like this is a way more efficient way. So like, why wouldn't you just do? Anyway, got into the whole thing. Like I like let my temper get the best of me. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie, like, and she was not happy with me, and I'm still like dealing with the repercussions of that.
Yeah.
I think I'm still apologizing to this day, but it really is like, as much as I would love to be like, just keep beating the dead horse of like I
Yeah.
was right, like at a certain point, um, I know that the way that I said it and the way that I approached that whole conversation
Mm.
was not like out of love and charity, and it was
Yeah.
more out of like dunking on her and being like, look how, this is,
It's
y'all were
pride
stupid.
is.
Why'd y'all do this dumb shit?
Mhm.
I got this. Listen to me. I'm the authority here, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so and she doesn't respond well to that either. And she had another thing, like a run in with her brother, that it was like, how that kind of stuff snowballs. And then like,
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily you, but like you were the camel that, or the camel.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
No, maybe I was the camel that broke the camel's back. But yeah, like I kind of like, I was the death knell
Yeah.
to that. But I did have to like step back and examine myself and
Mhm.
say, I, I fucked up, and the I was not the man that my wife needed me to be,
Mhm.
because she needs to be um, treated with more tender care,
Yeah.
and if I'm weak, that's when I'm going to lash out and do shit
Yeah.
like what I did. If I'm strong, then I can like lower myself to be tender and like take care of her in the way that she deserves. Um, and anyway, that was a failure on my part. So like I'd be a dick if I didn't like say that out loud,
Mhm.
because it's, I really, I did that shit. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm somebody I'm not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a constant struggle to recognize our own failures and like how like some of the situation, like I could keep like just pounding away at the reason you're pissed off at me is because you're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not true. It would make me feel better about myself,
Yeah.
and I would be like, like doubling and quadrupling down and octupling down on my pride.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the reality is the reason why she's upset with me is because of what I did and how I
Mm-hmm.
didn't handle myself in a more calm and reserved and compassionate manner. And so anyway, that's uh that's often the trap that we fall into as men too, where we have been taught that either you're a pussy or you just fuck shit up.
Yeah. And either
And
way, you end up messing stuff up.
right, that's right. You just mess it up in different ways. And
Yeah.
again, it's back to this, right? It's it's like it's your which one of these
Yeah.
are you gonna
You
fall off
know.
on the pussy side or are you gonna fall off on the like I'm no, I'm the authority. Respect my authority. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So I don't know. We have I wonder how it is sometimes, like if it was different, 1,000 years ago, where there
I mean,
weren't all these influences, because you think about with no television,
uh-huh.
radio, newspapers, social media, none of that stuff, like
Yeah.
everything that you got was just kind of handed down through the ages, and it
Yeah.
was things moved a lot slower,
Mm-hmm.
and it was much more likely that whatever your great 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 grandfather was taught is kind of the
Yeah.
same thing that you were being taught
Yeah. And I think
in
people are
terms of like how
realizing
you
that.
handled yourself,
Yeah, and I think people are realizing that because that's why I think a lot more people are either getting into the homesteading life
Mm-hmm.
or at least getting like chickens. I think that's why a lot more people
Yeah.
are. They're feeling like they're through with like things like college, even though college in a lot of areas can be
Certain
helpful.
disciplines. Yeah.
Certain,
Yeah.
yeah, but you see more like let's get into a trade. Like I've talked to young dudes, these like at least three young dudes in the past couple of weeks, and then they all wanted to get a trade. Like I think two of them wanted to be welders, and I was like, that's a great like profession. And
Mm-hmm.
one dude, he was like, he's going to school for. I was like, well, he hasn't started. I was like, to be honest with you, you don't even have to go to school for it because
No, you go get somebody to like show you
yeah,
how to do it, and then do some jobs, some little jobs, and then build yourself to where you can do bigger jobs, and then
yeah,
bigger jobs after that, and then you get certified. You're
yeah.
good.
Well, see where I work at now, they have a welding shop, uh, and they'll pay like they called it welding school, but they'll pay you. You'll come in, you might get paid
Mm-hmm.
like $12 because they're teaching you.
Right.
Then they'll put you on the line on the welding line, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll still get an instructor, and you'll get paid like 18. And I was like, if you don't like that, at least stick it out for a year, because once you have at least a year or two's experience, you can go anywhere now, especially around here. There's other
Mm-hmm.
warehouses and factories that do welding. And then I
Yeah.
was like, I got a homeboy. He opened up he had a job like that. He's running his own welding school. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, the sky is a limit once you
Mm-hmm.
just get your foot in the door, and
Well,
you
and you
don't
get
have
into some of these industrial jobs,
yeah,
and now you're talking about like you become part of like these like $5 million contracts and stuff like that. That I'm not
exactly,
saying you're getting $5 million, but like
but still getting a
it's a
nice
big
little
money contract. You can
yeah.
make 30 grand over a summer.
Hmm.
Like easy.
Yeah, and like I said with him, I said the guy who owned the school that I was telling you about. At first, he was doing the welding.
Mm-hmm.
Then he opened the school. Now he doesn't do anymore. He does a little bit more welding, but he's able to be more selective with the stuff he goes out and personally does. And then he also sends people out, and he gets a little bit more of a kickback from the jobs they do. I was like, then you're not beating yourself up as much. It's just all
Right.
about the process. But I was like, if you feel like you need school, do it. But most of the time, there's ways of
Mm-hmm.
people will make you an apprentice. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like,
Yeah, but there's, I mean, and there's people like, Marcus, my co-host on Aquarian Anarchy, which I hope we can get back. He's been going through some stuff.
yeah,
Him
I
and
wrote
Luca,
him. He told me.
but yeah, we're trying to get back going. Maybe I don't know. I doubt it'll be Monday because we haven't talked about doing it yet. But
Yeah,
maybe week after next. But he grows his own garden, and his garden's way better than mine. And I mean, my family couldn't survive off my garden. Okay, I'm just gonna be straight
yeah,
up with you. Like if we did, we'd be well, some of us would be in better shape. Some of us would
yeah,
be in worse shape. Like I could stand to lose a little bit, but my
yeah,
boys not so much, and my wife and my daughter no. Um, but like doing that sort of thing, like he grows enough for them to eat off of during the summer and into the fall, and then like they start canning
yeah.
all like throughout the summer, so that then they still have stuff
Left
in
over.
the winter that they can
Mm.
eat off of. And it's not to say that it's like this, you don't have to go anywhere else and get anything else, because they don't have cows and all that shit. Even I even know people who do, and it's not like you're slaughtering a cow often enough to where you're just living off of your cattle, because
Hmm.
some people only have like 30 head of cattle. Well, you you go through a couple of those a year and you're going to be down, you know, you're going to be down pretty low, because then you'll lose one or two here and there to disease, or
Yeah.
an animal will go kill one or something like that. So,
Hmm.
but the more and more people start to make themselves a little more self-sustainable,
Hmm.
the better. And yeah, I mean that whole college thing, I know it's tough. I got two of them in college, but I wonder if they both hadn't gotten full rides, like how they would be viewing
Yeah.
that whole situation.
And that's different too, because it's like, well, I'm not paying for it, so
Right?
it's a free education. But a lot that's not most people. That's why I was thinking. I was like, man, unless
Yeah,
my
going
kid,
into debt, $150,000 or something like
yeah,
that
that's
for to
ridiculous.
get, and then they go to that. That's typically the ones that are more likely to get the shit degrees
Hmm.
too. Some like art history or something like that. Where you got everybody can't work at the museum. Come on now,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, what are you? I'm a curator of the museum. Like, no, you're
yeah,
not. You work at Wendy's. Um,
yeah,
so it's like the people that go and they go to Hollywood to be actors. It's like they're all waitresses.
yeah. And
You
it's
know what I'm
weird.
saying?
Like, I don't understand a lot of that thinking nowadays
Mhm.
because, like you said, with the art history thing, or even with the acting thing, like, why still depend on the system when
Yeah.
now you have the internet, when you can actually be independent and make it? You just have to invest a lot of your time and work. You're gonna put
Hmm.
in a lot of work, whether it's through social media and stuff like that, and linking up people like that. But like, why
Hmm.
not go that route? It's the same way nowadays. You still see artists signing record deals, and I'm like, out of all the hundreds of thousands of stories of people you hearing about people getting screwed over, why are y'all still signing
Yeah.
these contracts?
And not just like anybody getting screwed over, but like Lauren Hill
Yeah,
and like
Michael Jackson even
Michael
like,
Jackson. I mean, it's like you got like these high profile people who like. Well, I'm talking about Lauren Hill because like she went underground and
yeah,
like
yeah,
just basically dipped out. Her and Prince were just like,
mhm,
no. I'm like Prince was slick because he like figured out a way to like not exist anymore, but still
yeah,
make music and
mhm,
have a symbol as a name. You
yeah.
know, but yeah, it's tough. And they actually had. I don't, you familiar with the band Styx?
I've heard them, but I've never
The
listened to them.
it's all right. So they're come sail away, come sail away.
Oh,
That song.
yeah.
That's them. That's Styx. Well, so Dennis DeYoung is their lead vocalist. Well, he went on tour solo as the voice of Styx, and they sued him and they won.
Yeah.
And so now he can tour. Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx. That's how he can tour now. But he
Yeah.
was calling himself the voice of Styx. And they're like, you can't claim to be the voice of a like this guy wrote songs, these
Yeah.
people sang back up,
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like you can't call yourself the voice, but he was the lead vocalist. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
he's the voice that everybody it'd be like with Steve Perry and Journey or something like that, or
Mhm.
like if like JoJo and Casey when they split off,
Yeah.
like they could have quite literally called themselves the voice of Jodeci,
Yeah.
but they didn't because I guess they were cooler than that, but they could
Yeah.
have. And like,
Hmm.
Devontae and shit, what was the other dude? I can't remember the other guy's name, but
Yeah, I can.
but anyway, they'd have been shit out of luck, because
Hmm.
it's like uh, they like rapped in a couple of little songs here and there,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but it
that
wouldn't.
wasn't who was singing that everybody was throwing their panties on the stage for.
Hmm.
It was Casey and JoJo. So, but yeah, it's wild how much people will let themselves just get. I don't know. I guess I can't really like point fingers because I've done the same thing. Like we all on a certain level are sellouts, right? Because
Yeah,
if we weren't, then we'd probably be like owning our own business. We wouldn't have a
yeah,
boss, and we'd just be
yeah,
doing whatever thing that we thought made the most sense. And we'd be like, I don't care if I have to live in a cardboard box. I will not
yeah,
be a yes man to anybody. I'm like, but no, like this job pays well. So yes, sir, coming, sir. What you need me to
yeah,
do? You know what I mean? So
yeah, 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 yeah. True, true, true.
I can't really point a finger too much. And I get it. Like the big thing you're paying for with signing those deals is like distribution and like access to being seen. But like
Yeah,
you said, now that you got all these other avenues, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, and everything, you
yeah.
can get your stuff out there.
Hmm. Like I
Which
listen to a lot of.
you gotta let YouTube take their cut, but
Yeah, yeah. I would say even on goddamn Twitter, getting paid for getting paid to tweet.
yeah. Not me. That's why my shit still
Yeah,
says free. I refuse to. I'm not paying. I'm not putting my. I don't have to worry. Everybody's complaining about how they're making you like
yeah,
file your documents with Mossad or whatever it was or whatever. I
yeah,
was like, not me, because
yeah.
I'm not getting paid. I'm not paying. I'm not none of
Yeah,
that. Like I don't care. That's not why I'm here. I actually started my Twitter account just as a way to like follow certain accounts because it
yeah.
was like I used Twitter as like my news because I was already like,
Oh yeah,
15 years ago, I was already in like the alternate news. Like, I don't believe the traditional media. And I like found like, okay, this person, this person, this person, and this person, I will listen to what they're saying about when something's going down, like what's really going down.
yeah,
And it wasn't because I was just like, I I trust these people no matter what. Like, no, it was like I had been paying attention, and those
yeah,
are the people who I felt like when some shit went down, that what they were reporting on it was the most reliable. And so
yeah.
I was just like, well, why would I follow CNN and Fox if I can
Hmm.
follow this handful of people instead, and I can actually know what's going on?
Yeah,
So that's how it started. And I think when I started, remember when I told you when I first introduced myself on here about doing that work with Hotep Jesus and them. I think when I first started doing the work with them, I had like 75 followers or something like that
yeah.
on Twitter. And I haven't even like tried. I've never been like, y'all follow me. I'm trying to get to this number, or, follow for follow or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Like, I just like, if people follow me, they follow me. If they don't, they don't. It's whatever.
yeah.
And I've never gotten to 5,000, but I got close.
Yeah.
And I've just been like hanging around in the same spot for like 2 years
Same.
because ever since Elon bought it, it's basically like if you really want to get out there to
Yeah.
where you get seen by people who aren't already following you,
Hmm.
you gotta pay the man, and I'm
Yeah.
not doing it.
I gave him
I
my
just
little
ain't doing it.
$8. I
Oh, you
gave him.
did? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
you sucker! No, I'm just joking.
Because at the time I forgot what perks came with it at first. It wasn't about the money at first. I think it was the
You
longer
could post
tweet.
like
Oh,
longer videos. You could
that's
post
what it
longer
was.
tweets.
I
Yeah.
wanted to post longer videos. I didn't really care for longer tweets. Like
Well, there
I
was a
didn't really.
$4 a month thing, wasn't there, at the
I
beginning, or was it always
maybe
8?
maybe, but I've always done the 8.
Okay,
Then when I
maybe it
found
was
out
8.
you get paid, I was like, oh, okay, then I get paid to tweet. But I'm not one of those people that are like I didn't switch up. Like I
Yeah,
still
right.
tweet the same as when I first started. Like even
Yeah,
sometimes, like if I tweet for engagement, it's because I really want like the white people activity stuff.
yeah,
The
yeah. No, that's just funny though to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like, I really want to either converse or laugh with people, and so I hate the rage bait, like tweeting just the. Now, if I tweet something that makes people mad, it's probably because I was in my. Like sometimes I will get upset, at a certain topic or the
Mm-hmm.
way certain
Mm-hmm.
group of people are behaving, and then I'll just
Right.
express my frustration, and then people will respond. But usually it's just bots. Like I don't necessarily uh get a lot of pushback from real people.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
but you put those things out. I think sometimes, and it's yeah. You may I don't know. I think there's a difference between the people who are they're actually engagement farming on purpose just for the sake of engagement farming,
yeah,
and then there's sometimes where you're actually trying to like get people into a conversation about something that
yeah,
nobody else is talking about,
yeah,
or maybe it's the subject that everybody's talking about, but you want to take it in a direction
oh yeah,
and see, you know what I'm saying? And that's
mm,
what I see. Most of the people that who we are, there are some who are just like grifting, but
yeah,
most of the people who I see in our circle who are doing that sort of thing, it's for that reason. It's like,
yeah,
no, this y'all have this wrong.
hmm,
We're going to bring the conversation over here because this is where it belongs, kind
yeah,
of thing. And that I don't have a problem with that. Like jumping on a hot topic and then but then taking it where it needs to be instead
hmm,
of the grift direction that it's been in since it started
or
is much better.
even exposing hypocrisy. It's just like, hey, you're saying this kind of like earlier when you said with the
Yeah.
Ahmaud Arbery thing, and then
Mm-hmm.
like it's like, hey, you said this at this time, but now you're saying this.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you like? Where's your standard? What standard are you judging by, or are you just
Right.
talking because you know
Right.
it'll get you paid
Yeah. You
and it'll
you do like the this you.
yeah. That's like I got some followers that I like, but like they'll say black people are sensitive because of the N word, but then they'll complain about being called racist. And I'm like, racist are far nicer words than the N word. Or like if we talk about well not we, but if a black person talks about being treated a certain way by I'll just use the term white people.
Yeah.
Or just basically if a black person generalizes white people in a negative way, they'll see the fault in that.
Right.
But
Right.
then
Right.
then when it's like some thugs over here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, look at this culture. And then in my head, I'm like, wait a minute, don't you like mob? If you were mad at these gangsters, why do you like mob movies so much? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Look. Well, and see, and I guess it's easier for me because and like Marcus too
Yeah.
because we both see like the
Well, I wouldn't
government
say like it. I want to just say
as like a mafia
romanticize.
gang.
Yeah, I want to say romanticize because I'll say for one,
Oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
do because I'm gonna go ahead and put it out there. I do. I'm fascinated with mob movies because I'm like not because of the crime. I don't condone the crime, but it's the tightness of the community,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a structure and there's a law for the most part that they
No,
try to
it's
stick
there's a
to.
code. There's a
Yeah,
code within that. Yep. That it's I mean it is the same as gang culture though.
yeah.
It's exactly identical to gang
Those were
culture.
the original
They're
gangsters.
they're the they're the it's the same thing. It's just
Mhm.
like now it's become like it doesn't count because it's not Italians now or something. I don't know. Like it's weird. But the thing
Yeah,
is, like when it was Italians, it was seen the same way that it's seen
see
with black
now,
people
like,
now.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like the same racists saw it the same way,
yeah.
but it's just like the lack of uh I don't know
Self awareness,
awareness,
what?
self
Yeah,
awareness is glaring. But yeah, it is crazy how that happens. And so this is what's crazy about that is you talked about like how it's romanticized and how you get it because you kind of like you've watched that and you like tapping into that.
yeah,
I feel the same way about like Boys in the Hood and like Menace to Society and
yeah,
like Straight Outta Compton and shit like that where I'm like nah man, like I fuck with what they're saying. Like I get it. Like
yeah.
fuck the man. Like fuck Tipper Gore. For, like all this kind of stuff where it's like I get it. I understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
When you kind of get like you have to check yourself though because it's like all
Yeah.
right, yes, I realize I'm indulging like all kinds of like my pride and like
Mhm.
um greed and all this stuff where it's like stewing in there, and it's like, yeah, you know, you kind of build up that Michael Corleone
Yeah.
machismo, like, yes, I will murder anyone who
Mhm.
wants to mess with my family, and it's like, wait, okay, but I'm not really about that.
Yeah.
This is just a movie. This is just a
Yeah.
movie, but it does stir that stuff up. But yeah, it is. It's kind of that's exactly what I was talking about when I was saying that they like they can't pick a struggle. They don't understand that the similarities and the differences, like they miss both. Like they see
Mhm.
similarities where they want to, and they miss differences where they want to,
Yeah.
and they miss similarities where they want to, and they see differences where they want to. It's all like this, whatever makes it to where I can stay within this little narrative bubble that has been created for me, that
Yeah.
I found safety and security and comfort in.
Mhm.
And anything that starts to create some sort of cognitive dissonance with that
Yeah.
is where their brains start to, and it's a shame, because if they would just allow, and that's where, like we were talking about, you're talking about
Yeah.
like going into the fire, you know,
Mhm.
if you would just let yourself go into the fire,
Yeah.
you come out of that bitch like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, man. Like
Yeah.
you'd be like, let's go. I have
Mhm.
have been I have been proved by the fire. You know, like
Mhm.
it would make you a better person who understands the struggle that people go through,
Yeah.
and you would actually connect with your own struggle in a different way.
Yeah.
And like it's like, we were talking about, all this shit is my fault, right?
Mhm.
So they don't have any problem with, pulling up the video of Ahmaud Arbery smoking weed in the car and the cop pulling him
Mhm.
over for that, before the whole thing with him, with the,
Yeah.
I
With the
can't,
house.
I want to say the McMichaels, but is that what they're, I don't know, what was
I
their
think
name?
that's right. That sounds
Is
right.
that right? Yeah. I was like, is it McMahon, McMichael? I can't remember.
McMichael
The
sounds
McMahons
right.
is the wrestling people.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, I think it's the McMichaels
Mhm.
family that chased him down and killed him. But like, they would show, and same thing with like Trayvon Martin, where they're showing like videos or clips where he's like doing like this, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's got a gun. It's like, look at this,
Mhm.
he's got a gun. And it's like, bro, your whole like following posted all
Mhm.
their guns in like
Exactly.
formation by their pool at their
Mhm.
house last week, and you retweeted it all.
Yeah.
Pick a struggle,
Mhm.
because you don't have any intellectual consistency.
Yeah.
And also that stuff like posting all your guns is really stupid.
Yeah.
That's just like
Especially if you
like
claim to
like
fight, that
you
you're
you
gonna.
just you just gun registered yourself,
Yeah. You
dumbass.
just
Like,
dox yourself.
you dox yourself with all your guns on your official government name Facebook page. Good
Mhm.
job, guy. But anyway, they there's this disconnect, this cognitive dissonance between um the well, obviously he did some stuff that put him in that situation,
Yeah.
so it's kind of his fault.
Mhm.
But then in their own circumstances,
Yeah.
get banned from Twitter for saying some racist shit.
Yeah.
Well, motherfucker, that's your fault.
Yeah. Or even like with
You can
what's her name?
say the system is, it's censorship and it's whatever, like, but like, okay, so, but that's not your fault. Like,
Or like
maybe,
what's that woman that was at the Capitol? Like
oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like
Um, um,
I can't remember her name.
Babbitt. Well, what was her name?
Ashley Babbitt.
Ashley Babbitt. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I was the same. What I was like, well, that's similar. Like even though I
Mhm.
feel like I wouldn't have shot her. I wouldn't have shot her.
Hmm.
Like it's a
No,
woman.
recognizing that both of those things are tragic
Yeah.
is the place to land.
Yeah. And then like if
So it's not that hard. You did, like, Ahmaud Arbery should not have been killed,
yeah,
and she should not have been killed.
exactly.
Could they both have done some things differently that would have not put them in that situation?
Mhm.
Certainly. But does that excuse the people who pulled the trigger? No. Why
Exactly.
should it? Like,
Exactly.
how are you gonna, I don't know. It's just bizarre. And then again, it goes back to, there's this old, I don't remember who said this, but it's very true. 99 times out of 100, probably 999,999 times out of a million,
Mm-hmm.
every human being believes this to their core: mercy for me,
Mm-hmm.
justice for my enemy.
Yep, that's
And
true.
that's when you can finally flip that script
Mm-hmm.
and say, Lord, have mercy on my enemy, and Lord, I accept your justice
Sounds like the
because I
gospel a
know
bit.
that I deserve it.
Yeah.
Then you start to really like get to the place where you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be. And as long as we continue the opposite,
Yeah.
the world's going to continue on the train track that it's been on for a few thousand years, because that's ever since the fall,
Yeah.
that's been the path that we've been on, which is, um, in the Garden of Eden, I don't trust that God really has it
Yeah.
in our best interest.
Did
So
God really say?
did God really say
Yeah.
this? Yeah, that's the lie of the first lie of the devil is,
Mm-hmm.
did he really tell you not to do that? Did he really tell you that was what
Yeah.
was going to happen? So you grab that fruit, and
Mm-hmm.
next thing you know, and it comes from a place. There's a really cool video that I saw that was talking about how like this all came from like this lie of like scarcity,
Yeah.
that somehow we believe, and all of these different agendas that are going around. The first commandment that God gave to creation was be fruitful and multiply.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird that we would think that somehow we're like going to deplete the earth's resources if we follow that command
Yeah.
of the creator of the earth and the universe.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, we this idea of scarcity starts us down this path of, if I don't steal it, if I don't kill to get it,
Yeah.
if I don't lie to avoid losing something,
Yeah.
whatever, that it's this zero sum game where like I've got to take or I'm going to lose.
Yeah.
And the other person is like, well, I've got to protect, or they're going to take. And we end up in this loop of selfishness and greed and jealousy and all those things that like make us do some of the things that we do, that it just causes more and more pain. And then we blame other people for it because
Yeah.
it's all part of that same sinful cycle. So
Yeah. I feel like the so-called elites, that's how they operate. Because like I'll sit here and think, and I'm like, why do you need so much of this and that? And I was like, there's enough food and resources for everyone here in
mhm.
more to grow. We already know there's more food. And then there's enough land. Like most land isn't even occupied. I think in like Japan or
Oh, it's crazy
Tokyo,
how much land there is.
there is
Yeah.
that nobody's living on. It's like I think it's like 80% of the
hmm
population lives on 20% of the land. And it's
hmm
like we short like they're stealing resources, and they want to say it's overpopulated. They want to kill you off, and then it's like you don't have to do that. It would be you could still get everything you want. Like it would probably be easy for me if you made because they're making the people uncomfortable. With the uncomfortability, there's gonna be strife and war and somebody to die. But if you made them
hmm
comfortable, then they're less likely to rise up. If you were
hmm
able to provide, like, come up with different technologies that would help increase the what they call it, the something of living, the not the
Oh, the
cost of living, the
standard of living.
standard of
Yeah.
living,
Yeah.
you can still get the same results you're trying to get,
hmm
but you're doing it in an evil way, and I guess
But think
now,
about what's motivating those elites though, and that's again back to this thing of like the Ephesians 6:12, like, because we want to fight the elites. That's what the typical thing is, right? Everybody's like,
yeah,
oh, the enemy is George Soros
mhm,
and Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and I don't know, whatever,
yeah,
run whoever's name up the flagpole.
yeah,
But no, like, it's who's controlling them.
and that's
What
why
what
well,
disembodied entities are controlling them?
that's where I was just about to go. Because like I tell people, I was like, if you ever hear me say Illuminati, that's just a cover-all term. I don't know the
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
It could be. It's a bunch of like I was like, I don't think it's one big organization. I just think it's a bunch of
Oh, I
different
do.
people.
I do. It's a big organization. Yes. And it's not of this world.
Well, yeah, that's what I was gonna get to. I was
Yeah.
gonna be like, it's a bunch of separate like entities doing
Yeah.
their own little evil thing, but in the end, at the top of the so-called pyramid or the ladder, there's Satan right there, and he's
There
calling the
you go.
shot.
There you go. Well, so let's break down the term conspiracy. What does that mean? What is
I've
to
heard it so many
conspire?
times.
It's
Tell
with
me,
it's
because
with the same spirit.
yeah. So that's
You
what
know,
the
it's
word
like when you
means.
go to
With
church. When you go to church, that's a conspiracy. You're in
okay,
the same spirit. It's a good
dang.
spirit.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit.
But the right, but the other spirits, they
Hmm.
conspire too, right?
Hmm.
Because con
Is with. I
is
know
with,
that.
yeah, and spire is spirit, so it's with the same spirit. That's what a conspiracy is. It's like we're all in this. We
We're all in this
this we're all
together.
we're all on the same page, right? Okay,
Hmm.
let's go. Like when the marching band goes out and does their little routine or whatever, and it all goes off without a hitch. That's because they were
Yeah.
conspiring.
And a conspiracy
It's
theorist is one who theorizes that these people are in the same.
they're in the same spirit, that they're working
Yeah.
together somehow.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's like I have to like step back, because I was one of those people who even like 4 years ago when all this crazy stuff started to happen, I
Mhm.
was probably looking at it way too materialistically. No, not
Yeah.
probably. I definitely was looking at it way too materialistically.
Mhm.
I was looking at it as like, where are the people? Who's the group? What's the secret meeting?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, the Bilderberg group, the
Mhm.
Bohemian Grove, whatever. Like, no, man, like that.
The
Yeah,
Jesuits.
it's not to say that those things don't happen and those
Yeah.
things don't exist, but you're missing the point. What you need to do, you don't need to read "Behold a Pale Horse," which I
Mhm.
have right here, by the way, just to prove that I'm a real one. Look, I got "Behold a Pale Horse" right here. Oh wait, I moved the wrong finger. There you go. Shout out to Bill Cooper. But and even he would say probably that, like, yeah, while he did point out all this crazy stuff, which I don't know, maybe I get your channel banned for like
I'm,
this,
I'm already not getting monetized. I've said some stuff in
Are
the
you
other ones. I'm like,
serious? They're already like, this will not be monetizable.
I
Um
already knew because like I want to say 10 minutes into my first year, I told my boy John, I said, do not say anything about the Jews. Just joke, cause we joke around. And the first thing I did was make jokes about Jews. And then I'm just like, because I like to make jokes about everybody. But I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right, this ain't getting
yeah. Well, you can make jokes about everybody, but well, anyway,
yeah.
you know. Um
Kanye knows.
so right. Well, so that's not the book you need to read.
Yeah.
You want to read the real book?
Mhm.
Go look up The Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis.
Oh yeah, I love that one. I
That's
gave it
that's
to
the real right there. Like
him.
that's Uncle Screw Tape and his nephew Wormwood.
Hmm.
That's the ones,
Yeah.
because he's telling it's these little demons that are talking about like what they need to do to,
Yeah.
because their enemy is God, and they're like,
Hmm.
keep your subject, keep your patient. I think they call them patients. Keep your patient's mind off of the enemy.
Yeah.
Keep him distracted and all these things. That's what, every time talks about that. Oh, this is a distraction. What are they distracting us from? I'm like,
Mm.
it's not that fucking complicated. Like,
Yeah.
they're not distracting you from the Fed. They're not distracting you from the WEF. No,
Mhm.
they're distracting you from taking care of your family,
Yeah.
from praying
Mhm.
in the morning and at night. As soon as you wake up, hitting your knees and thanking God for allowing you to wake up again and because the one thing that we seem to miss is that, yes, God created us, but also the fact that you and I are still talking to each other and breathing and living right now
Yeah.
is not just an accident. It is
Mhm.
an active choice that God has made to keep us alive.
Exactly.
He is actively maintaining our existence.
Hmm.
And why? Because there's still stuff that we have not finished yet.
Exactly.
And so hit your knees every morning and thank God for that. And then ask him what does he have for you today? And then when you go to bed at night, pray for forgiveness for the things that you've done, whether they're voluntary or involuntary,
Hmm.
whether you said them or you did them, whatever it is. And then pray that your soul is protected as you sleep so that you aren't haunted by demonic spirits trying to infiltrate your dreams and
Yeah.
and torment you with, because I've had some doozies where I've like wake up and like I think like I don't know, like my whole house has been taken over by something, or you know what I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you start praying for protection from, and I'm not saying it's even necessarily just that, like that's just like some weird dreams, like no, you can actually have thoughts planted in your head, doubts
Hmm.
and things that if you're not protecting yourself from that, that you're I'm not saying you're inviting it, but you're leaving the door unlocked, at least if not open,
Yeah.
for that stuff to come in. So do those things, and like ultimately you want to know what you're being distracted from. It's that.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, they're distracting us and because they didn't want us to know about this bill that was being passed. Like, no, man, like
That you
that's,
did, that you couldn't have stopped. What
you couldn't have
you're not.
stopped it anyway. Like, what,
Yeah.
distract you? How's that distracting you? Like, your kid just came and asked you 4 times to look at what he drew,
Hmm.
and you wouldn't look at what he drew because you don't want to be distracted from the bill that they just passed
Hmm.
that you couldn't have done a fuck all about.
Exactly.
So I don't know, man. Get your shit together. Like, focus on the shit that's important. And I'm saying all again, saying all this to myself because
Hmm.
I can like I have a Twitter account. I
Yeah.
met you like how did I meet you except that like we were distracted doing some shit that like
Yeah.
I met some dude in Georgia on Twitter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like I understand.
Yeah.
And I take those things as like the blessing that God can make out of our own like mischief and like chaos that we create. Like we
Hmm.
mess some things up. Um and like, I know people who have like kids that they had when they were like 19,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, that God found a way to make that mistake
Yeah.
that you made turn into a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
So, maybe I shouldn't have been on Twitter as much as I was, but I was, and here I am talking to Duke
Yeah.
Lucas. So, like, it's uh, serendipity. God can make treasure out of trash all the
Hey,
time,
he
and
did. He did with us.
here it is. But try as best you can
Hmm.
to keep your mind and your heart and your spirit focused on the things that matter the most.
That's what I think.
And that's you and your relationship with God and the people who He has put in your inner circle that you're supposed to care for and to love Him through.
Yeah.
Because if you can't love them, then you're not loving Him.
Exactly.
If you can't love your neighbor, you cannot love God. It's because He created your neighbor and put them there to be
Yeah.
with you for you to love them. And if you can't love them, then you're lying to yourself and Him and everyone else if you say you love Him.
I would say not even just well, they still count your neighbor, but don't just think of the people that lives next to you, but the people you work with too.
Yeah, that
That
too.
that, that annoying coworker that we were like, man, I hate dealing with that. Yeah, you called to love them too.
Yeah,
And I'm talking
facts.
to myself. I'm preaching to myself on this.
That's a fact. No, I now that you said that, I'm like, dang man, I got some work to do. Oh, because
Man,
I was talking about somebody today.
yeah.
I got work to do. All right, thank you for that.
And that's what, like, I'll tell you, that's kind of been in my mind because I just started a new job, right? I told you they hired me because they're gonna fire a guy, and the
Hmm.
guy he was working with, I already knew him and I was cool with him,
Yeah,
but I'm like, darn, the guy I'm cool with got fired, so now I got to work with a guy that I know is gonna be lazy. And in my head, I'm like, all right, God's gonna teach me something, and it ain't gonna be easy. So I was like, I'm just preparing myself. I don't know what he got going here, but I'm hoping you give me the strength because
That's so cool that you notice that though, because like, isn't it always like that? Like when there's something that you cannot explain, and it's like, oh, this is some dumb. Okay, this is gonna
I'm
be
being tested.
this is not gonna be easy because
Hmm.
this doesn't make any sense except that like it's like Simon of Cyrene,
Hmm.
and they're like, you pick up this cross, carry
Yeah,
this to this man. He's like, bro, what?
like
You know what I mean? It's like
I was just
I'm
here
just
for the
standing
message.
here. What the hell? What did I do? Oh shoot, that's actually really good that you said that because like it is like when you're like, oh, this is not going to be easy. I know this is
Yeah,
going to be tough because this makes no sense whatsoever. But okay, all right, here we go.
yeah,
I'm
because I've
here.
been as I'm as you started as you go through the test, you start to realize there's more tests. Because I remember before I left, I was at my old job. The ladies, the lady who was my supervisor, she's okay, but she's a bit of a what do they call it? I don't know, right? She's a micromanager.
Control
And
freak, micromanager.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like so, but I'm like, I've been here this long. I know my job. You don't have to tell me. Like I know where to be. I know what to do.
Yo,
I don't. I'm here on time.
I've been at the same job for 25 years, and I was
Yeah,
having that conversation I was talking about was about that very thing. I was like, how can we like they still think I'm not trustworthy to where
yeah.
I could help out with these handful of things that would make
Mhm.
it would make my job easier if they could just be like, here, you do the regulatory paperwork on this. But like,
Mhm.
no, you got to send it to this person, and it might take 2 months for the regulatory paperwork to be filled out. I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
just missed an opportunity because it took you too long. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that.
And I blew. I'll admit I blew up on her because my thing is like the biggest issue I had with the management is was they were not able to see 2 steps ahead.
Mm,
Like they would come up with an idea and put it in place and not think about the consequences of hey, what if this happened? So we'd be in a bad spot. And it was I was just frustrated because she kept putting more and more work on me and the guy I was working with. And then like the one time we were asking for help, she was like, "Oh, they ain't got time to do that." I'm like, "What the heck?" Like, and so she said something, and I was like, "All right." And I was walking out. She was like, "So what you gonna do?" As I was walking around, I was like, "I don't know. I figured out since nobody else will." And she blew up and this and that. And I walked off, and like the next day, it was still on my mind, and I felt like I was listening to a sermon, and it was about forgiveness, and like basically like admitting you were wrong even when you don't feel like you were wrong type stuff. And I was like, "Oh God, you telling me to go apologize, aren't you?" I was like, I was like, all right. So then I had to go.
got him.
I was like, I already
That's
know
good.
what this
That's good.
is. I was like, okay.
Shoot.
So I had to go up to her. I was like, hey, I'm sorry. I what I said yesterday. And she didn't take no. She was like, I understand. We're all going through something. We're stressed out. We're approaching the deadline. Blah blah this and that. And then like even when I told my wife, I was like, I just apologize to my boss. She was like, what made you do that? And I was like, God told me to. When I say that, she don't even like she's like, all right, because I don't throw that out there flippantly. And then like I don't feel like it's like a hey Marquez go down and told my name. It's all right. I'm like he's like go do it. It's just like I call it like a knowing like it's like something impressed on my heart where I'm just like you need to do this right. And
Yeah.
I and sometimes I run from it, but now
Hmm.
I'm trying to do more of that. All right, I'm gonna go do that. Like even the other day, I'm like I got $20 in my pocket, and there's a lady she has a sign that says homeless. And then the first thought was like, what if she buys crack with it? But then I'm like, that's not my job just to worry about what she does with it. I feel like God told me, here, you give her the money. Whatever she does with it,
Hmm.
that's between me and her. Now, there's sometimes where I know people, well, I know the people, and they'll try to. If I know I'm enabling you to do something, like if you say
Yeah.
buy me a beer, I'm not gonna buy you a beer.
Well,
One,
there's some alternatives too. Like you could. I had a friend who like he would go. I mean, look, McDonald's isn't great, but like
yeah,
if you compare it to the alternative of like buying
Starbucks.
heroin
Oh
or
yeah,
something else or whatever, and then like But like you go to McDonald's and they have like these little coupon books or whatever that like you
Yeah.
can get like you go give them $20 and they'll give you like some little $5 coupons or whatever. And then you give like here, look, there's McDonald's right there. You
Yeah.
need something to eat. Here's you can go spend this at, and then it's like it's deterministic, right? Like
Yeah.
the only thing they can do with that is go to
Yeah.
McDonald's. I mean, they
Mm.
could trade it with somebody,
Somebody, but
but like that's still like. Whereas if you just give them cash, it's like you know that there's a possibility that that's what it's
yeah.
going towards. So there are some, or that, or I've gone before and just like gone and actually like bought a hot meal for somebody
Yeah.
and then brought it back to them.
Yeah.
Um, so there are some other things you can do, but like sometimes it's just time constraints, and like you said, like you feel like when it hits you that like that person's there for a reason,
Yeah.
and that you feel compelled to do something right there. The only thing I would say is like make sure that if you have time, or even maybe if you don't, that you take the time to actually like talk to that person
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
make sure, because a lot of times more impactful than the money is like that person not just being walked by and having change thrown in their feet,
Yeah. True.
like it's different. So
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that helps me start this podcast because I've said it on our earlier when people, for some reason, people they don't even have to be homeless people. They love telling me their life story. It's been that way since I was a kid. When people just come to me and tell me stuff I didn't ask about, or so that's what motivated me to be like, all right, I don't want to talk about myself on the podcast, but I'm sure I can
yeah,
get people on here to talk about themselves, and I love that. I add
yeah.
my 2 cents because I feel like I don't think I'm dumb, but I'm like I'm a simple person. I don't.
Well,
So
I'll say this, like for all the things that we've talked about and everything, and it's we live in a world where, especially like on social media and doing podcasts, there's a lot of people who are um it's kind of crazy, but like it actually, to me, like it used to be something where I was like either intimidated or maybe jealous of,
mhm.
where people were like like hyper confident and very like um I don't know, had like this false bravado, you
Yeah,
um that their shit doesn't stink, and they're like this authoritative and there are some people who are very authoritative on certain subjects. They've
yeah,
spent a lot of time in those fields, they're experts at it. That's great. But
yeah,
there's a lot of the social media influencer and podcaster space
yeah,
that is occupied by people who are full of shit,
yep,
grifters, who are just out to promote themselves and to not let you know who they really are, because they're probably not anywhere close to what their persona is online.
mhm.
Um, what I will say that I appreciate about the conversation that we've had here is, almost 2 hours and 15 minutes here, is that like there's a there's been like a genuineness and an openness and a vulnerability and like a willingness to just be transparent that I appreciate. And I try to do the same thing, because I think um I just turned 50 in January, and if I've learned anything in 50 years, it's that where in the grand scheme of things, the 50 years that I have occupied this space that I've occupied is infinitesimal in significance to like the entire universe. So I realize how unimportant I am. But if I'm going to do any justice to the
yeah,
limited time and space that I have been able to occupy,
yeah,
it's going to be to, if it comes at the expense of my own ego or my own status or anything like
yeah,
that, if I can share with people like, hey, this is what I've learned, this is what I think will help you to navigate this world better, and perhaps towards eternity, then that's what I'm going to try to use my time to do. Um, I I'm not saying I had like the keys to the universe or anything like that, or
Mhm.
the secret to the meaning of life or anything like
Yeah.
that. But I do believe, and I think it comes down to like there's like you either believe that there's a creator of the universe and that he became incarnate in his son, and that there's like a trinity, and you either believe that stuff or you don't.
Mhm.
I do, and I believe that um, the God who made himself incarnate to connect with our humanity, to elevate our humanity back to where it was originally destined to be, in union with him, that um, through a relationship with that incarnate God, that we are better served to heal the wounds inside us that
Yeah.
have separated us from him. And I'm working on that for myself, and I hope that anybody who maybe hears me talk is led to take that same journey themselves, so that they can receive some of the I don't know, the comfort, but also I guess some of the comfort has come from like knowing that I I don't have to do this all myself,
Mhm.
but some of it also comes from knowing that the plan for that healing is very simple. It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
It's next to impossible,
Yeah.
but it's very simple.
Mhm.
It's like just give up everything that isn't him.
Yeah.
And that's, it's the rich young man, right? It's
Yeah.
like it's easy. Sell everything and give it to the poor, and
Oh.
and I maybe not all of us are called necessarily to that extreme level, but I think we are called to, back to that floor analogy, right? Like
Mhm.
we're called to at least start to cull the stuff that isn't
Mhm.
him, and the things that to break the tethers that
Yeah.
tether us to this earth and prevent us from soaring to to meet him. And uh, the more I start to break ties with some of the things that I was attached to before,
Yeah.
the more I start to realize, oh, I didn't even know I was attached to this, because it
Mhm.
was just like second nature to me.
Yeah.
Didn't even realize it was there. And now I realize that, like, not only am I attached to it, but it's really hard to let go of. And so then you start the process of that, and you work your way down, towards that, and you just trust that a loving and compassionate God will
Yeah.
see that effort and um, that desire to be united with Him,
Mhm.
and will take care of the rest of it with His mercy.
Yeah. Well, Chad, that was great. I can't add anything else to that. Beautiful. That was just beautiful. So I think we're gonna end it about right here. Is there any? Well, first I'll ask: is there anything that you wanted to ask me before we get off here?
I mean, just, this may be too much to get into right now, but like, you good? Like, I
Oh
know,
yeah, yeah.
I know it's been
Rick,
a rough, like,
yeah,
and I didn't even know until you like you hit me the other day. You're like, yeah, well, I don't have a job right now, and then like, you're like,
yeah,
I got a job. It's the same as my old job, and
yeah,
but like, because I asked Trey the same thing this morning. I was like, yo, man, you good? Because I feel like we spend a lot of time in this manosphere space or whatever. I don't consider myself as part of the man, but like, like
yeah,
it's hard not to get caught up into that, where it's like, oh, men of order, rah 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 rah, but
yeah.
like, really, like, no, you good?
Yeah, I'm in a better place now. Oh wait, that sound like I'm dead. But no, because like I'm trying to see things through how God would see. I know yeah, my his thoughts are higher than my thoughts, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just the way I had been praying and the way things have happened that I was like, oh, okay, God, you want me to go back now? Now, like now, I gotta drop my pride because I
Mm.
talked so much trash about this place. which is still the same type of place it was when I left. Like as soon as I got
Right.
there, people were like, "Oh yeah, this machine's always down, everything always breaking. This person ain't doing this." But I have a different attitude,
Mm.
and so I'm going into it with a different attitude. And like I said, it was the timing of like when I prayed for something, and it just happened. Like I said, God, if it's not your will, then like I was applying my job. I was like, God, if you don't want me to work there, don't even let them call me because
Yeah.
I don't want to hop into something and thinking, oh no, this is God's will because this happened, and then it's not God's will, and I done delayed. I
Right.
wasted my time in this place where
Yeah,
God
yeah.
didn't call me to be. I
You
don't
get
want to
in
be
you
there.
get in his way. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I know I'm prone to do it. So I was like, that ain't what I
Hmm.
want. And then the way
Hmm.
that the call just came through, uh, and like, cause I had given up on working that going back there. Cause at first when I was applying back, they weren't trying to pay me any money, or they
Mm.
were trying to pay me less than it was. And I started, and I was like, man, when I get there, and this may sound like pride, but I speak the truth. When I was like, when I get there, I'm gonna be one of the best operators you have. There's
Mm.
only like two guys I know that are better than me. Well,
Mm.
one, because he studies the book. Me, I didn't read the
Mhm.
book. I was just learning how to operate on the fly.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
I'm
look.
so I was just like, I don't even remember where I was going. But so they didn't want to pay me. But now that I
Hmm.
came in, now I'm making more than I made. It ain't like so some people may not be like, but I'm making more than I made when I left.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll do it. And then like
Mm.
to people that know me, like I felt like they lied for the reason they fired me because actually I put in my 2 weeks notice and then they fired me, but they lied about the reason. And so
Mm.
they had me heated for a while. And just like even like I text my brother today, he was like, "You went back after what they did to you?" I'm like, "Bro, it's not even personal anymore. Now it's just business. I
No.
know
Yeah.
because I know
You got it.
God got me here, and I gotta fulfill some duties,
Mm.
and I'm just here to make some money so I can goddamn fund my podcast stuff and do whatever I feel like he's called me to do. So
Mm.
it ain't about me anymore, or it's involving me, but it isn't about me.
Yeah. That's real shit though. Like to actually swallow your pride and go back for
Mhm.
something like that. And that's again, that's where like, I don't know. I don't know where where you were in your head and your heart and everything, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if like some of that was like, okay, well, this is going to be rough for a minute, but this is to get you to like this little bit that you were holding on to let it go so that you can go back to a place where you felt like you got done over,
Yeah,
and just like swallow your pride and then go back and then maybe it's not even for you necessarily exclusively, but you might have some people over there who maybe they're going to realize like that they messed up when they did you the
yeah,
way they did you too, and maybe not. I don't know. I'm just
yeah,
but it's we never know completely. The best metaphor I ever heard for how like we view God's plan when we're trying to decipher and understand it is, you ever seen somebody do like embroidery where they have like the little canvas and it's like
mhm,
it's in a ring and they're sitting there and they're stitching through and everything,
yeah,
and on this side it's like this pretty picture, it's beautiful and everything.
mhm,
Well, that's God. Like God's like making this little pretty picture and everything.
mhm.
You ever looked at the other side of that thing?
Yeah, it looks like a
It's all
mess.
like hanging yarn and knots
Yeah,
and all this
yeah,
other bullshit. It looks horrible. It's
yeah,
disgusting. Well, that's us looking at
yeah,
God's plan, and
mhm,
it looks really stupid and like completely nonsensical to us, and like haphazard and ugly, and like
yeah,
just like what kindergartner did this.
yeah,
And on the other side is this beautiful tapestry that we can't even fathom because we can't see on that side.
yeah,
So, I'm glad to hear that, and I just kind of seeing how the fact that I didn't know, and that was one of the things I was talking about with Trey today, is like sometimes we don't know because people are hiding it
yeah,
and they don't want to let people know,
mhm,
especially if you got like enough people following you that it's like you don't want to be like on there to your all your followers be like, yo, I don't know what's going on. I might not, like that kind
Yeah,
of shit.
yeah, yeah.
It's, but there can be a lot of like fake stuff on social media where people are
Mhm.
trying to show themselves being somebody they're not, or
Yeah,
having stuff they don't have, or whatever the case may be. Um, but I think you also, if somebody's still doing the same stuff, making the same jokes and everything, it at least gives you like an indication that, like, all right, well, he's at least in a good enough mood and good enough place where he's still him,
yeah.
So
Because
that
that's
was
what
good to
brings
see.
me joy. Like
Yeah.
I don't making people smile is what brings me. Like even when I'm down, I was like,
Hmm.
it sucks. Let me make somebody laugh because if I make them laugh, then I feel good about
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I try not to do it at this, in a spiteful way or at the
Right.
expense of other people. Because sometimes there's been times where I had to delete some stuff. It might have been funny, but I'm like, this didn't come from a good place. Let me delete that.
Mm.
So I
Hmm.
try to delete those, but
Yeah.
it's a work in process. But I'm doing better.
Good.
As
Good.
long as them bills paid, I'm
There you
good.
go.
I'm making more money. I'm gonna be able to get more equipment. I'm gonna be able to hopefully travel. Take my wife. We can go on vacations. More
I feel,
vacations.
I kind of feel bad. You talking about all your equipment and everything, and I just remember we never mentioned the fact that you have all these FBI people behind you to
Oh yeah,
just to mess with me. we,
yeah,
we went 2.5 hours and we never mentioned the fact that everybody says that I'm a Fed.
yeah.
But here we are.
I forgot about
Shoot.
it.
That's
Yeah.
that's hilarious.
If
And
you look
people are
at
like, why the hell does he have all that shit behind him? All of a sudden.
every background has been like an inside joke
Mm,
towards the guest in some
the
kind of
guest,
way,
yeah,
like
that's good.
or like
That's
a
awesome.
topic. Like if I'll give one. My boy Joel. I knew we were going to talk about fatherhood. So what
Mm.
I did was I put Piccolo and Gohan, which is they say Piccolo is Gohan's dad. So like everything has been a
Mm.
joke. And I think who did I have for who did I'm trying to think who I had for Goldstein. I want to say it was David and Goliath. I could be wrong, but I think it was
Mm.
David and Goliath. Like so, because I call him a giant. So
Yeah,
everything,
yeah, yeah.
everything goes with. It's. I don't know how long I can keep this bit up, but I'm gonna keep doing it as long as I can think of
That's
something
actually
to.
no, that's actually dope. Like I like that as as like a style, as like a not a shtick, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Like it's an identifying characteristic of your podcast.
yeah,
So if you do, if you can, I would recommend keeping it up because
yeah,
it becomes one of those things where then people start to wonder, like, well, what's he going to do for me?
yeah,
What's
yeah,
mine? What's mine going to be like? You know what I mean?
yeah,
That kind of thing. So like when you know, Carpe Donkum or one of those people does, it's like, what's this one going to be like?
yeah.
Um, there was a guy when Top Lobster was doing the thumbnails for he was doing them for Josh Smith's podcast, I think,
Okay.
and he would do like, I mean, it's really good drawings, and he has the one that he has of Hotep Jesus. He's like, it's 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 Brian,
Yeah.
but he's got his dreads and everything, but he has like this, like he has like a not a cat of nine tails, but like this little rope whip thing or whatever, and
Yeah.
he's flipping over the tables in the temple, and so it's
Yeah.
like, damn, like it's just,
Okay, I get that. Yeah.
yeah, it was like he did his thing on that one. It's a really good thumbnail. I gotta go find it. I'll send it to you if I find
All
it.
right. All right.
But that, it's that kind of thing where it's like, then everybody is just kind of like, damn, I'm going on this show. Like, what's mine gonna be? That
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it becomes it becomes a character on the show almost
Hmm.
in its own way. So I would stick with it if you can.
Speaking of being a character, that's how I got my freaking profile pictures, making jokes about cheese.
Oh yeah.
And then like someone made that goofy version of me at a table like Tony Montana, uh, with the cheese on the table. Then somebody did the AI version, which looks it's like cleaned up version, and I thought that was dope. So I was like, I gotta put that as my profile picture.
Now I got to look at it because I don't even maybe I had, how you see like I only use Twitter on my phone, so like
Yeah,
that's really like the only way I look at it. So I got to be honest, I haven't even. Okay, now I see it.
it's me.
Okay, yeah, I
But
never even saw that before because that's not what it was before.
nah, I had
Okay,
several. Because the first
yeah,
one I didn't even have the wig on. Like now I got the wig, I got the beard, I got the jacket, I got a chain on.
I
You know,
know. See?
and I guess
Ah,
that's Parmesan
uh,
cheese falling
farm,
like coat.
farm. That is so good. Who did that?
I can't
That's
remember, and I'm
hilarious.
sorry that I can't remember
I don't
because
mess with
people,
the AI stuff, but like it's
yeah,
that's kind of funny. I'm not
because
gonna lie.
people
Like,
send me stuff all the time. It's crazy. Because
yeah, so
like,
you were asking me about when I joined Twitter in August of 2010. So that's how long
yeah,
um I that's it's 2010 is when I started I started a Twitter just to follow news reporter accounts.
yeah.
That's it. Kind of a nerd, but it
This is
is what it is.
actually my second account. My first one, I gave it to my brother. It got up to 21K. This was
Dang.
back. I started in 2009, but that was when I was into the world, and
Yeah.
so I used to. I may have said it on another podcast or somebody else's podcast. I used to write erotica on timeline. Like
Oh,
say it was.
dang.
This was back when like if you tweeted too much, they'll cut you off. So it'd be like
Yeah.
Thursdays. I had this story time Thursdays, and so I would get on online and try to do a story from beginning, middle, conclusion, whatever.
Yeah.
And I try to wrap it up before they put me in Twitter jail. And so it blew up by doing those because people will come in every week to see what I wrote. And so like other pages would share my stuff. And then once, I came to Christ, I was like, all right, I ain't doing that no more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't be talking about this stuff and talking about God like that. Like I'll talk about sex in the context of marriage. I don't mind that,
Mm-hmm.
but like
Yeah.
I don't want to promote fornication.
Right.
But so and then I back then I was following like a lot of strippers and porn stars and just that type stuff. And I was so that stuff was popping up on my timeline a lot. Even people that weren't strippers and porn stars, I was following people that would share that type stuff. So I was like, I'm tired of seeing this. I got rid of it. Well, I gave it to him because he has his clothing and he can use it to promote that.
There
And
you
so
go.
then I started over and I was good. I had about like 700 followers. I was good.
So what,
And then
he just like scrubbed the account, but like used the follower count
nah,
to
if
like
I
start.
if I think of a tweet, I can go. I can.
Oh,
I
it's still there.
Yeah, it's still there.
Oh
Like
my
I
gosh.
because I asked him this. I was like, give me the login. I want to look something up, and I was looking something up. So like all my old stuff is there. If I
Oh,
know
so
what.
you can do that without logging in. By the way, go to the search,
Oh
type
yeah,
the
yeah,
at, and then
yeah,
type the quote after the at,
yeah.
and it'll pull it up for
I
any
only did it
account.
that one time,
I'm
but
just
yeah,
saying, it's like you could go to like I don't know Alex Jones's Twitter account, and then
yeah.
type like because that's what people do all the time. They're like somebody makes it becomes prominent or something like that. Somebody white, and
Yeah.
they'll go
Look,
search
said
their
the N
account for
word.
the N word.
Yeah.
See if said it like with the A, with the ER,
Yeah.
like anything like that, and it's just like,
Yeah.
damn man, y'all just like y'all
Trying
love to see if somebody said some shit that y'all don't want to hear. Like
to. That's
I don't
weird, ain't it?
understand. Like let me go search for. Did this person ever say Chad is an asshole? Like, I don't care. Like, whatever.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell the people, hey, when this blow up, I'm speaking life into the podcast. When the podcast blow up, I done said everything I was offended by. It was at one point. I like to tell people I'm not a good person. Well, none is good but God. I've said it all. Some in
Yeah.
love, some in hate. I said it all. So don't be surprised if you hear from me. But darn, I guess
Yeah.
that's the way we're
Kind
gonna
of the
end it.
same.
That's a
Yeah. There you
good.
go.
Oh wait,
There
wait,
you go.
wait. No, wait.
It's a good
One
way.
thing. I
Oh
need you to
shit.
promote Men in Order and
All right.
show the flow in the Apex
Oh
one
yeah,
more
yeah.
time too.
All right. So we have a sleep supplement. It's
Yeah.
called Moon. Um, and I don't have a bottle of that here, but I do have. So this is our first one. This is Flow. This promotes mental focus and
Mhm.
clarity and memory and all that. Gets you to your natural state with that because a lot of us, we stuff we eat and everything else and things that we do, our habits, social media, and everything kind of clouds that, and so this
Mhm.
helps to kind of um, anyway bring you into balance with where you're supposed to be. And then we got Apex. You see the little lion logo on
Mhm.
there. This is for testosterone support. This is all like natural herbal stuff, no fillers or anything like that. And it's made by the Hoteps, so it's not like
Mhm.
it's I don't know, what do you want to call it? It's Hotep approved.
Yeah, it's not big
Um,
pharma. It's legit.
it's not FDA approved, but it is Hotep approved.
Yeah,
But you take your chances with the FDA. They've
exactly.
only recalled like I think the top 10 drugs. Well, I don't. Let me not get into some stuff like that, because then we'll get like a medical misinformation
Yeah,
flag or something like that. But you know what I mean. Like there's some stuff that's been pulled off the market because it was not kind to people. I'll put it that
yeah,
way.
exactly.
And so anyway, but no, this is all natural stuff like Tonkat Ali, ginkgo biloba, saw palmetto, different things like that, to just to promote um, your natural stuff.
Mhm.
The way God intended. This is the stuff from God's earth, and
Mhm.
not synthetic stuff from a lab. And we even ship it in these little cardboard containers, so you're
Yeah,
not shipping it in plastic either.
yeah,
So that's actually, if you're into that kind of thing too. But yeah, and you go to menoforder.com. So we have a few things going on. One is right now, if you go to the site, anything that you order, there's already discounts when you pull up the products on the site. But then we also have, if you use the promo code StrongDad for StrongDad June, you get an additional 45% off. So like, and that you won't see that until checkout. So like when you add it to your cart, it'll have like the normal discounted price. But then when you go to the checkout and you actually start that checkout process, you'll see the additional discount of 45% applied there. And then once we get out of June, um, there's some other I have my own. You can just do menoforder.com/Chad, and that'll give you 30% off. Like that's, I don't, as far as I know, we're not ending that ever. But if
yeah,
we ever do, I'll let you know. But I don't see it. That our promo codes for the affiliates are good to go for
yeah,
in perpetuity. So anyway, and then while you're there, in addition to ordering this stuff, if that's something you're interested in, whether you are or aren't interested in ordering any of the products, the website has almost 1,000 articles on all kinds of different stuff, like current events, but also just basic stuff on like Kamar Daniel has done a lot of really good stuff on like cybersecurity and just taking care of making sure that all of your information, your data is secure, your accounts are secure, that you're not doing anything goofy, and also just like simple advice stuff on like what's the best phone for this, what's the best app for
yeah,
this, that kind of stuff to make stuff easier and more efficient for you. But we have a lot of other stuff on there about dating advice, business advice, investment advice, different things like that, just to help young men and even like older men become better versions of themselves, so that we can be the men of order that the world really needs.
yeah. All right, Chad, man, I appreciate you coming on the show and blessing me and not calling your boys over in the back on me to come kick in my door.
I mean, hey, promises that you'll make it through the night, but so far so good, right?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I appreciate you having me. This has been really fun, and I I think, I don't know, it's really fun. It's always good to be able to talk to someone of a kindred spirit, where I felt like I didn't have to hold anything back. I could say the things that I felt like I was compelled to say,
Mhm.
and none of it like was, you didn't look at me funny, and like none of it went over your head, or was
Yeah.
like uh, you're like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like I felt, so that's always good, because there's a lot of
Yeah.
times where some of the same subject that we covered,
Yeah.
you talk to certain people about that stuff, and they're just like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
Hmm.
Like, no, we got to defeat George Soros. I'm like,
I
All
think
right,
that's
man.
because goes back because I've said this on another, but I think it's because most Christians don't read their Bible, and
Mm,
like I don't know, like I don't. It's like I told you earlier. I'm not even good at remembering the numbers of places. But as soon as you
mm.
said we wrestle not against flesh and blood, I was like, oh yeah, I know what he's talking about now. I'm not good
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
numbers,
yeah.
and I'm struggling. I'm taking the flow in Apex. I'm trying to build up my memory. You know what I
There you go.
mean?
There you go.
So I'm trying to work on that. But I will say I try my best to read it every day.
Mm, mm.
Sometimes I slip, and sometimes like at the end of the night, I'm like, God, because sometimes you're like, all right, I'm gonna read in a little bit. Just let me do this, and then next thing you know, it's nighttime and you haven't read,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like that's why I was weak there. I done slipped in so many areas. I ain't prayed like I should have. I ain't
Yeah.
read my word, meditate on it or nothing. I was like, Lord forgive me. I can't even, and then you can't make up no excuse why you didn't do it. It's just like I was
Mm-hmm.
foolish.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot where the heck was I going with that, Chad.
We're just talking
I
about
said,
how
yeah,
talking being
most,
of the same spirit and just kind of like not having somebody look at you funny when you say the
yeah,
stuff that's like really meaningful to you.
yeah, because most
So
Christians, I'm telling, if you're a Christian, you're not reading your Bible, you're doing it wrong. And I'm not
mm,
saying that to be judgmental, because like I just said, that's telling why I don't read it. But get into that word, study it, meditate it, dwell on it, eat it up if you got to. No, I don't eat it
all
up.
right, so let me try to say something that will make you look at me funny. So
Okay.
what if I told you that like yes, what you're saying is true, but that the Bible is like the collection of all the stuff that happened until the Bible was completed, but then that there are still just like in the act you have the Acts of the Apostles and
Yeah.
you have all the stuff of the prophets before.
Yeah.
There are people who over the last 2,000 years who have actually still been living this stuff,
Oh
that
yeah.
if
Yeah.
there were a Bible that we were continuing to update year by year,
Yeah.
would be going into that Bible in a continuation of the Acts of the Apostles or whatever, or the
Yeah.
Acts of the descendants of the apostles, or whatever you wanted to call it. And that's the lives of the saints. And I would recommend like reading some of that stuff
Yeah.
too, like
Yeah. For
incorporate that
sure.
stuff into it too, where
Yeah.
like these are people, these are the people who, so there were, you had the apostles and the disciples of Jesus who lived with him, saw him,
Hmm.
touched his flesh and his clothes, like they
Yeah.
spent time in the same room with him.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have the people who came after them, who spent time in the room with the people who spent the time in the room with him.
Yeah.
And those people suffered and died
Yeah.
for him. And then
Hmm.
the people who came after them, there are some of them who suffered and died. And like those people, that is the life of Christ continuing in his people.
Yeah.
And you actually get a really good, it helps to maintain the connection that I think a
Yeah.
lot of us have lost. I think it's very simple and easy for human beings, even like some of the most devout Christians, to look at the Bible as this thing that was 2,000
Yeah.
years ago,
I agree.
and that there hasn't been a continuing life of people who have lived that and died and been crucified and murdered for it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Because it's really easy for us, especially in the West, especially in America,
Yeah.
to who our homes aren't being bombed
Hmm.
and our children aren't being dragged out into the streets,
Yeah.
but because of their faith, and we're not being dragged out and forced to choose like, well, we're going to kill your kids or you can renounce Jesus.
Hmm.
No, instead we're just renouncing Jesus by sending them to public schools and having them
Hmm.
teach our kids all kind of crazy stuff. Although I will say sometimes sending your kids to a Christian school might be worse, because then you think you're sending them to a place where they're going to learn that
Yeah.
stuff, and they're being told the opposite. At least when you send them to
Hmm.
public school, they know they have to defend it,
Yeah.
if you're raising
Yeah.
them right. But anyway, I'm just saying that like
No, I agree. I
yes,
agree.
read the Bible, but also like don't sleep on the I don't know, the serial spinoff, which is the
Yeah.
lives of the saints. The
Yeah.
Bible was a great
Church
movie,
history. Because
or a
I
series of,
slipped in that part. Like I neglected it, and now I'm really seeing how much I've missed out. And then even having conversations with people, and I'm like, I don't know that. Like I've heard some stuff. I'm like,
mm-hmm.
I should be more well versed in these areas, and I'm having it. And I'm like, now I feel like, all right, now now a blind spot has been exposed, and now I got to go back and do
Yeah.
some
Are
studying.
Are you familiar at all with Saint Mary of Egypt? You ever heard of
No,
her
I.
before? 'Cause I hadn't until a couple of years ago. So she was found she was a prostitute, very similar to like Mary Magdalene. Um, and I'm trying to remember all of the different steps along the way, but she ends up eventually she ends up in a desert, and she like lives in the desert for like years by
Mhm.
herself, naked. And somebody finds her, and they start talking like a monk finds her, and they start talking to her and everything. They clothe her and whatever. But anyway, they start talking to her, and she just is like reciting scripture.
Mhm.
And he's like, how do you like, you must have really studied the scriptures and all this stuff. How do you know all this stuff? And she's like, I've never read any of this. Like,
Yeah.
she just, it was like revealed to her like in the
Yeah.
desert. So it's like there's some of this stuff where it's like there are even saints who like never read the Bible,
Yeah.
but she was convicted enough that she recognized what she was doing wrong, and
Yeah.
then went into the desert to escape from it, to get away from, because she knew that men were going to, they knew that her, word had gotten around about her. And so she went to the desert like most hermits and monks do, to get
Yeah.
away from the world, you know.
Yeah.
And then a monk found her, and but yeah, she's one of those ones that like she had essentially through that conviction and that like she was, without ever even reading the Bible,
Yeah.
was like reciting the Bible.
Yeah. He impressed it upon her heart.
Yeah, so it's just it comes in many ways and many forms, and
Yeah.
I would encourage people to embrace the many form. But yeah, you also have to have discernment, because you can't just, we are not all Saint Mary of Egypt, where we can just go
Mhm.
sit, and play Fortnite, and then be like,
Yeah.
oh no, the Bible, that God told me while I was playing Fortnite that
Yeah.
that my neighbor, it deserves whatever I'm about to do to. No, 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 no. That's not.
Nah.
That's some weird stuff that is not.
Mhm.
Is not God. That's somebody else talking to you that ain't
Yeah.
God.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, there's I like I said, that find a place where you can look into some of the, because then it starts to bring you into connection. Like, no, this church is alive.
Mhm.
It's not just something that was 2,000 years ago. It's
Especially when you
alive.
hear about the secret church in China and
Huh?
in other,
Oh yeah,
especially
yeah,
like in other
yeah,
places, it's serious. I
yeah.
seen one where they when they gave them the Bibles, they started crying and they were just so excited because they're facing persecution. They get found
Mhm.
with those Bibles, they're dead. And
Right,
then I feel bad sometimes. Like I'll think of that. Like I might put my phone down and it'll be on my Bible, and I'm like, I can't. Like that might be superstitious, but I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
I gotta show this word more respect, even though that's just
right,
something
right.
small. Like because I got brothers and sisters in Christ across the globe that are facing real persecution,
Real persecution.
and
Yeah,
they
that's the other
hold
thing.
that book tight to the
Yeah,
themselves, and I shouldn't disrespect. That's why I ain't gonna say his name, but a certain pastor, famous pastor, I saw him pouring syrup on the Bible, and I think he kicked it, and I was just like, how could
what?
you do? Yeah, yeah. I'll send you a
That's
video of
wild.
him when we get off. But
That's
it's just
wild.
like I couldn't. Even when I wasn't saving, I was always superstitious. I wouldn't have done that. That ain't something I would have ever thought to do.
Yeah, but I don't
But
know that. So that like superstition is like, my pillow was facing this way when I got that big contract, so I'm gonna face my pillow this way every time. I don't think it's superstition to say like, I'm gonna not pour syrup and kick the Bible.
well, no,
You
I
know,
said
like
yeah.
I
I
think
was
I think there's some of that stuff that's like, no, that's disrespectful. Like, and like, yeah, to your point, like putting your phone on it and everything. Like, there's a difference between like superstition and just having a reverence
yeah.
for something, like holding something in high esteem,
Hmm.
and saying like, okay, look, I'm not going to put this on the floor. I'm only going to put it on a shelf or on a desk, or like that.
Yeah,
Holding something in high esteem because you recognize the value of it is not the
yeah,
same to me as superstition. Superstition is like, I haven't washed these socks in 6 months because I'm on I don't know, a winning streak in chess or something. You know, like
Yeah.
that's superstition.
Well, see, it's because I'll say back then because I've had a Bible. My dad gave me a Bible when I graduated, and I never read it. I just knew, all right, this is important, this Bible, but I never read it. So
Hmm.
like I used to keep it in my car when I'd go drive because when I go driving back and forth from college home. So I was like, all right, keep this. It was like I keep this Bible in my car. I won't get put over and go to jail, even though I'm driving
Yeah,
drunk. You see what I'm saying? I'm driving
yeah,
drunk or
like
I'm driving high.
the St. Christopher medal that a lot of Catholics have. They
Yeah.
you familiar with that? Like the St. Christopher statue or medal? It's like a
No,
thing to
no.
keep you safe while you're traveling, while you're driving.
See, no,
And
I
then,
ain't.
do you ever see the movie Crash?
Yeah, but it was years ago. It was like when it first
Okay, well,
came
so
out.
the guy, Don Cheadle's little brother, who
Uh huh.
Ryan Felipe kills him
Okay.
because
Yeah.
he's reaching for something. He's reaching for his
Mm,
St. Christopher statue,
yeah.
his little mini statue that he was going to put on the
Yeah.
thing. And he was just like, "No, I'm trying to show you something." And he like thinks he's pulling a gun, and then he shoots
Yeah.
him. Well, that's what because he believed in that. Like he was just, and
Yeah.
he's out robbing cars and stuff. But he would
Yeah.
steal a car and then put the
Put
St.
it up
Christopher
there on
statue
the
on the
freaking.
dashboard or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what. So that's actually kind of a common thing that people
Yeah.
do that they, you know, let me do this thing to keep me from being okay. So
Yeah.
yeah, that would fall under probably superstition. I
Superstition.
think
Yeah, I was bad about
yeah.
that. I even like it was a time in college I had never had night terrors till right before I went off to college, and
Mm,
I would keep it beside. That's the reason I kept it beside my bed.
mm.
That's the reason it's beside my bed because I
Now
used to keep
that's
it beside my
legit though. That's legit because then like you're actually trying to protect yourself from like the like because I you may there may be something
demonic.
else going on. Yeah, where
But I still
those night
wasn't
terrors.
reading it. What good
Like
is the word if you're
yeah, if
not
you
reading?
weren't reading, if you weren't
I
reading,
wasn't
you weren't
reading it.
reading before you went to bed for protection, then you were really
Yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, you were using it as like an artifact.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but I will say this. So there's another one, Cyprian Vin Armani, like his
Yeah.
patron, uh, Saint Cyprian, actually. So he was a sorcerer, and
Mm,
somebody came to him and asked him to cast a spell on this female so that she would fall in love with this other guy. Right?
mhm.
He was like, "Hey, cast a spell on her so she'll fall in love with me." And Saint Cyprian, he was like, "All right." So he tried, cast a spell on her. She wouldn't follow. So finally, he sent like demons. He like actually sent demons to
Mhm.
attack her to get her to fall in love with this guy.
Yeah.
And she like did the sign of the cross, and the demons went away. And he was like, and then they went and attacked Saint Cyprian.
Yeah.
And this is before he was a saint. He was still just a sorcerer at this point.
Mhm.
But they're attacking him, and he was just like, well, um, the way she got him to go away was she did this. So he
Yeah.
does the sign of the cross, and then they stopped attacking him. And so he's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, whatever I was doing is some bullshit, and whatever she's got is the real shit. So
Hmm.
I want that. So
Yeah.
he converts to Christianity, and then within like a year, he's like a bishop because he was that like I mean he was like really really
Yeah.
hardcore, and there's a lot of people like that where it's like you're hardcore about what are you hardcore about is the only issue.
Like
um
Saul to Paul.
because right no absolutely that's
Yeah.
it, because what does Christ say? He says, you're either hot or cold. If you're
Hmm.
lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth.
Hmm.
And that's where like there's actually a lot of like atheists who are probably closer to salvation than
Yeah.
some really really lukewarm and fake Christians,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're not convicted in any way or the other. And
Hmm.
what the atheist is just somebody who hasn't had that like touch yet where they've really encountered Christ in a way
Yeah.
that like moves them,
Hmm.
and they're just they're looking for something. That's why they've held so hard to what they think is the truth
Yeah.
in that, but the truth is a person, so they won't
Hey.
find the truth till they find him.
True. Well,
Yeah.
hey, Hey, I want to point out something. You was like, yeah, when you do the show, just do like an hour long. Did you look? Can you see the timer?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was like, this man
But
talking about
also know that
doing
you've
like.
already done a 3.5 hour show, so I was just as long as I got on in under 3.5 hours,
Yeah,
we were gonna be good. But
I just thought I was like, okay, he's talking about do an hour long show, and we've
and
been
look,
on here almost 3
it's not
hours.
my show. You're running this show. Like, what are you talking about? They'll talk to me. I'm
It's
just
because when
messing with
you said that, I was like, he
you.
don't
I
know.
know.
I don't like. I can talk, and then I told you like people talk to me like
Yeah,
just even the
this
other
is good
day.
though. This was
Yeah,
very this was beyond. This wasn't just entertaining. Like, this was fruitful for me. I really
yeah.
appreciate it. This is a good
Same iron
conversation.
sharper iron,
Yeah.
and that's why I always said I'm hoping these people watch these just not just to get me views, but that
Yeah.
you will be blessed by these. I,
Mm,
I don't want to just have anybody on here to create controversy, even if they say something's controversial.
mhm,
I feel like I'm feeding people, even if they're not Christian, you're gonna get some
mhm.
sort of wisdom from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
And
ultimately, it's not us, right? It's Christ that
yeah,
feeds us. It's God
amen.
that feeds us, and we
Yeah,
what we're called to do is to like invite people to the table with us, right?
yeah,
So,
right.
uh, yeah.
Well, all right then. I hope you have a great one. Wait, I'm trying to think because it's stuff that I thought we were gonna cover, but I was like, no, I can't ask. I can't. We've already been here 3 hours, and because I gotta get up at 2 in the morning. I volunteered to.
Oh my
I'm trying to get.
gosh!
I'm trying to get this money. I'm getting 12 hours tomorrow.
There you go.
Hey, I'm trying to get out of this. I'm trying to get enough money to get out of the job. So if I gotta put in an extra 4 hours
There you
and
go.
come in at 2 o'clock with a jug of coffee, I'm gonna need a jug of coffee.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do that.
All right. What did you want to ask me in case I can answer it in 3.5 minutes?
Well, no, well, it because it doesn't transition well because I
Oh,
remember you
okay.
said I was just gonna. Well, not, man, I'll save it for next time you come on the show.
All right.
You gonna
Bet.
come back on the show?
Yeah, I'll come back.
All right. Leave your
Stay
handle.
tuned.
Leave your leave the feds at home.
There you go. All right. Yeah, fair enough.
All right, man. It was great talking with you, Chad.
Likewise.
And I forgot to tell them where they can find you before we go. As soon as you tell them where they can find you, I'm just gonna end it. I promise y'all. We've
Oh,
done ended the show like 3 times.
at Chad L is my name on Twitter, and
Twitter.
at Aquarian Anarchy on YouTube is where Marcus, Nico, and I do our show, Aquarian
Uh,
Anarchy. So, and then
and the minute.
I also with Strong Dad on Strong Dad Protocols channel, we do the Black Dad, White Dad. So
Yeah.
yeah, check us out.
And minutwater.com.
And menoforder.com. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we talked about that already, so I didn't think I needed to
Oh, okay,
mention it.
okay, okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
menoforder.com as well.
And y'all, as soon as I figure out how to put a description the right way, it'll be in the description below. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you, Chad. I hope you have a blessed evening and good night.
Likewise. Peace, man.
Peace.